The whole story kicks off in a gigantic courtroom. Then the head judge thunders, laying out a decision based on everything they've been through. The court finally declares Viola Vikland a witch, and everyone in the room stares waiting for that verdict to slam down. While the crowd stares with nerves and doubt, the speaker won't stop. He keeps talking, promising that once they've fully sealed off her magic, Viola is being kicked out of the country forever. She just stares, frozen and hollow-faced, until that cold news starts turning into something far worse soon. Even the guards snap. One of them shouts at her to get moving. Viola grunts in agony as a brutal chain hauls her along, and the guard snaps that she's just delaying the execution. Right before he yanks harder on her cuffs and snaps at her to get up, then spits that she's a witch, while she just meets his gaze with icy, unblinking eyes. That drop hits like a truck. She's only 19, and yet everything just started spiraling right before it happened. Viola was the oldest daughter of the famed Vikland family, and the real shocker, she also served as the vice commander of the elite mages who guarded the king. Her family used to be the king's right hand, one of the most respected names in the whole land, but now it's all vanished. It all kicked off in the magic kingdom of Mimas, at a house famous for turning out top-tier mages for years. Viola's father tells her that starting today, she's finally a court mage official and sealed, while Reed Vikland, the Duke himself, leans in and warns his daughter too. So she kept grinding and refused to let that shiny status get tangled in her head. Bursting with smiles and roaring promises, he swore he'd give her his heart and soul to the kingdom. And she meant it, because growing up she'd been the oldest, shouldering that weight day after day. She's been grinding on every subject under the sun since she was a tiny kid, even through her. During her academy years, she stayed on top of her class and right. After graduation, she got the call to serve the king directly in a flash. In a world where magic runs the show, becoming a court mage wasn't just a job. It was the dream everyone chased. Roy pats the Viola's head and blurts, "You're amazing. Becoming the head mage would be easy for you in no time." Which makes her cheeks flare as she swears she'll give it her absolute all, and for a while, everything's going perfectly. She had a real life, and a real job, something that mattered, standing right on the front lines, and building a crew she could truly trust until a mission shattered everything. Deep in the woods, the crew gets boxed in by dark energy, and one of the guys loses it. His eyes scream, "Where the hell is our backup?" Things spiral out of control in seconds, and someone screams, "Cover your ears." Roy's face is pure stress as he fires off a warning, "Get ready," because things are about to get insanely loud. As the dust finally clears, Viola barrels up to him, screaming his name and demanding to know if he's okay. Roy insists he's fine, but the others just freeze still, reeling in shock from the sheer insane power they've witnessed. And Viola just freezes there, staring like she can't believe what she's witnessing. Words completely gone after everything that just happened. The moment they met, a guy opened his mouth to talk. Then Viola Vikland from the 1st Division snapped in fast and formally introduced herself. Roy flashed a grin, told her he'd already heard the whispers about her family, and admitted he was blown away by every single thing he'd heard she could do. He went on and on, praising how legendary her magic was, and that praise only made her blush, shrug, and insist she still had miles to go. Roy asked if she'd escort him, admitting he'd feel a whole lot safer with her skills right beside him, and then he cut himself off, like the next words mattered. And she said yes, instantly. Those days were the best of her whole life, when Roy was just their kind captain, before he rose up to become king. But those sweet memories slam into a brick wall the second the room's vibe turns icy. Then Roy leans in and says he's asking one more time. He locks eyes on the subordinate and demands to know if it's true. Did Viola really order him to try and assassinate the king? And the guy doesn't even blink. He just stares down and declares, "That's exactly what happened," while Viola, stuck in the back, can't believe a word of it. She tries to grab him and begs Roy to wait, screaming that this is out of control. But Roy snaps, tells her to shut up, and calls her Vivi. He snaps his fingers and slams the room into silence. Then the spell hits her right away, stealing every chance she has to defend herself. One soldier bursts in clutching a bag, shouting that they finally found the magic tool the captain's been hunting for. Roy locks eyes with Viola and tells her it's a real tragedy, then stops himself mid-sentence from calling her Vivi and instead lands the full title, Vice Commander Viola. He doesn't even give you a second to blurts out, He's about to cast a forbidden spell, body regression. He explains it rewinds a person's body by decades like a forbidden reset, reserved for the worst criminals, so you can only imagine what comes next for him. Viola blurts out, "Why would a spell like that be forbidden?" But the mage standing next to Roy doesn't answer at all. He just starts chanting those weird magic words. Roy warns her that no one knows how far the de-aging will really go, as the chanting keeps getting louder, and he tells them the last guy they used this on turned into a fetus and dropped dead on the spot. Benny smirks. Because this time, it plays out totally different. Roy glances at the subordinate who just fessed up, then shrugs and tells him he looks like he's pushing 56, now maybe, so he snaps that the guy's a lucky bastard just for making it out alive. And there's Viola, strapped in cuffs, standing still like all her strength got drained out. Roy barks an order to the guards to carve deadly magic seals into the man's limbs, promising that once it's done, Viola is finally getting thrown out of the kingdom. It all boils down to this: the punishment of exile. Viola just stands there in her shackles, utterly wrecked, as the mages ready the ritual. Getting cast out alone is the cruelest fate that can hand you worse than almost any punishment, except for execution. And the ugly truth is, nobody has a clue whether the people they toss away actually survive or if they just get dropped to die somewhere, like nobody ever cared especially. Outside the city walls, monsters and beasts swarm like a nightmare, and it's a straight-up death trap out there. So yeah, it's pretty obvious what happens to someone who gets tossed out with nothing but the clothes on their back right back at the circle. One of the mages blurts out that the first 3 magic circles are fully lit and they're charging straight toward the execution sequence as Viola realizes this isn't some quick trick, it's a massive long-distance teleportation spell powered by dozens of mages, and the only thing left is to stare in shock as she wonders where they've planted the coordinates. But then she spots Roy's face dark, smug, and way too calm, and her stomach drops because she finally understands this isn't just a moment. Something way worse is happening. Magic erupts in a flare, and someone shouts, "Roy, the future king!" Then everything smears into a blinding white flash as the scene races on to the next. Somewhere else, a lone mage is locked in, poring over a notebook drilling the exact spell words and mapping where every magic formula has to be stamped. Viola is posted up in the library when Roy suddenly barks her nickname. She jolts hard, then snaps back at him fast. Totally caught off guard as outside the clock tower, the hour starts creeping in fast. Roy points out it's almost time to swap shifts, and Viola realizes she's completely lost track of time. Roy spots the mess piled among the magic books and crystals and shoots. "Have you been up another all-nighter for your research?" And so she just freezes there, eyes dropping like she's guilty. Then finally admits he's right, only she doesn't say it with anger in the air, because he's not mad, not even a little, since he suddenly whips a soft pillow straight at her. She gasps and snatches it midair, totally shocked by the move as the moment hangs there. Roy strides for the door, then she blurts his name, and he shoots back that he actually made it there a little early for the shift change anyway. He flashes her a friendly wave and a grin, then tells her to finally get some real sleep before he has to return and check on her again, right after he leaves her. Viola stands there clutching her pillow, and she tells him thanks, thinking he's seriously the nicest guy alive, until that memory suddenly flips. And the whole vibe flips instantly. Roy stands there fuming, clutching her papers like they're an insult, snapping that her work is totally ridiculous, and Viola can barely process the sudden change in his attitude as she stares at him, stunned, and he barrels on, grumbling that her ancient, pointless techniques have no place in his mage unit like they're supposed to matter at all. Roy stares down at her with pure disgust, snaps, "You're a fool," and looks like he totally blanks on who she is, then snaps at her to clean up that trash, jabbing a finger at those papers she lost herself for hours. Then Viola murmurs, "Okay," while a glowing magic circle ignites beneath her feet, and the system blurts that the charge is way too high. It's completely done ready for activation, so Roy just snaps the order and, "Fire it off." Viola whips her gaze downward, remembering how kind he used to be. Right before he snapped into a whole new version of himself, like someone swapped souls, and she couldn't shake the feeling that it had to be. The real reason hits her, and she vows she'll dig until she finds the truth behind what. She tries to take it all in, then the glare vanishes, and she looks down to find herself floating over. On a snowy mountain, she snaps, drops the moment, and lets out a blood-curdling scream as she tumbles straight down. Viola panics mid-fall, thinking how simple this would have been if her magic wasn't sealed, and then she realizes but she's charging straight toward the ground, and she knows if she doesn't act right now, death is already waiting. She refuses to quit and roars at the top of her lungs. There's no way she's dying here. She jerks to stop herself as she slams into the slope, screaming one last time right before she finally drops. She winces and groans because that landing totally left her in pain. She drags herself back together, clenches her fist tight, and refuses to give up. Because deep down, she still thinks she's got a shot. Viola figured if she can't sing her voice or mana out normally, she'll just smash through the resistance and force it out anyway. If normal magic isn't an option, she'll switch to something completely different. Even as a vice commander, she still remembers the fury in her family and coworkers, the way they despised her research from the start, but plot twist, everything she's been grinding for out here is about to save her life. Viola panics as the ground rushes up, yelling at herself to hurry, just press the button and activate it. She shoots her arm out and throws up a wind wall to slam the ground break before she drops. But even with that, she knows levitation is her next move, but she can already feel time slipping away, and she doesn't think she'll ever pull it off. Her only move left is sorcery, sure. Everyone back home sneers at it, but she's got no choice. And she clenches her fists, thinking she can force it to work, if she just has enough mana to burn. Eyes locked on the task, she drives herself to finish the spell right before she slams into impact. She casts a slow spell, fighting for a gentler landing, praying it's enough to stop her from getting crushed. She hits the dirt with a brutal slam, coughing hard as her hands are shredded raw and her shackles finally snap off. Gasping for air, Viola looks down at herself and blurts, "I'm alive. I'm really alive." But then she halts mid-step. She finally hears her own voice again, and it hits her. Maybe that eerie silence just broke. Viola stands alone deep in the thick forest, spins around, and realizes she has absolutely no clue how she got there. She's still battered and aching from that fall, but she clenches her teeth and swears she will not die in a place like this. With pure determination blazing in her eyes, she starts zeroing in on the people behind the incident, and she tells herself, "I have to survive no matter what because I'm the only one who can uncover the truth." Later, she snaps her eyes open in a weird room right then. A voice breathes, "Thank goodness, you're finally awake." A maid leans in and asks if she's in pain, but before Viola can even get the words out, the girl blurts her name, Ira. Ira flashes her a warm smile and tells her to breathe easy, she's safe now. But then she asks, "Did you run away from somewhere?" And Viola instantly freezes because she has no answer. Right then, a knight in shining white armor slips past the curtains and leans in to demand of Ira, "So how's the girl doing?" So Ira blurts that she just woke up a second ago, while Viola stays sprawled there, staring around like she's trying to piece together who these people are. The knight leans over Viola, admits he doesn't know every detail, but says he doesn't think she's any kind of threat. But he still slams the warning into Ira, "Stay sharp," because this whole thing could be a trap, with a kid used as bait, so she has to keep her eyes locked on everything just in case. Ira flashes a calm smile and tells Viola to finally relax, because that guy is actually sweet, even if Viola still secretly worries that none of them look even a little bit dangerous. Out in the woods, the wagon sits dead still, while the knight looms beside the wheels, guarding every inch. His eyes go wide like he's staring at a ghost, and he can't stop thinking. Then he digs up an ancient ring, stares at it like it's proof of fate, and whispers, "No way, it can't be her." Back inside, Ira blurts out that they're in the kingdom of Alshan, right on the edge of the demon forest in the Fell Duchy. Viola's cheeks flare red as she blurts out Ira's name, instantly feeling awkward about the whole mess. She tries to tell Ira, "I can sit up on my own," but Ira shuts her down, grabbing the moment and forcing her to stay put and rest. Viola goes dead silent for a beat, her thoughts sprinting as she mouths Kingdom of Altian over and over in her head. The kingdom of Alshio, one of the world's 3 biggest powers, is trapped in a brutal, tense stalemate right now, teeth clenched and nowhere to go. Right on the brink of a brutal war with the Senai's empire, Viola's mind snaps back to the life she used to have. Meanwhile, the magic kingdom of Nemus stays out of all this chaos, tucked safely away on the southern continent like it knows better than to get dragged into the fights. Ira leaned in and told Viola that the man who just walked by wasn't random at all. He was Duke Noah Layfield, and Viola's mind just couldn't process the name. Viola clocks him instantly, one look, and she realizes he's way bigger in the world than she ever imagined. Long before she became a legend, when she was still a court mage, she had to remember every single important person, and his name was impossible to forget because he's only 19, and ever since his parents died when he was 10, he's been running the whole show. She remembers the rumor he had to crush every single person who blocked his path to become the Lord. And now the dark rumors are flying. People swear he's slaughtering rival nobles just to claw his way to the very top. People call him the Duke of Ice because he never cracks a single emotion, and Viola's about to find out she's bunking with a legend. Hila finally snaps to it, that she's been helping this whole time without even knowing who she's talking to, and once the shock hits, she rushes out an apology and begs for a name, but Viola starts to blurt out her real name, then she snaps it back, remembering she's in exile now, and the air just turns cold as her thoughts spiral. They look simple, but trust me, those rules are way more tangled than they seem, and even with no official war between their countries, her home is still in danger. People are treating her like a ticking time bomb. There's a real chance these folks might finally clock her for exactly who she is, a top-level official and landing a spy from the enemy's inner circle, snuck right inside their own borders. Would be a massive deal if they ever uncovered who she really was, they'd lock her up in a cell forever, or just put an end to her on the spot. She knows she has to hide who she really is to stay alive, and yeah, she hates the lie she's telling the very people who took her in, but she blurts out a fake name on the spot, Vivi, Isla, and Isla just lights up, grinning like she finally got the name she's been waiting for. Viola can't stop replaying what Ayla told her. Turns out it wasn't some random stranger at all. It was Duke Noah who hunted her down in the wild, and it sounds like the story is only getting weirder from here. He eyed her with suspicion at first, sure she was a trap, but the moment he saw how wrecked she looked, it clicked. She wasn't plotting, she was just a terrified kid fleeing slave traders. Viola can't shake the fear that even with them helping her, Duke Noah is still hiding something, and he's definitely suspicious. Isla tells Viola to chill, they'll tackle everything tomorrow, then pushes her to get some sleep. And Viola nods like, yeah, that's the smart move. The next morning, the sun blazes over the trees as a fresh new day ignites. Hila pops up at the window to wish everyone good morning, then asks how she's feeling after a whole night of rest. Viola lifts her head off the bed and tells me she's feeling way better now. So Hila snaps her hands together, practically glowing with relief now that her desk is finally doing okay. Once Viola finally gets her energy back and can move again, she realizes there's one huge problem waiting for her. The second she recalls, she's only got on that long shirt with nothing under it. Her face explodes into a full-blown blush. She tells herself, it's fine, just deal with it. But the truth hits. She's basically in next to no clothes, and the awkwardness crushes her. Hila clocks her fidgeting like crazy and blurts out, are you just hungry? While Viola just freezes there, totally speechless. Ayla's grinning ear to ear as she grabs Viola and insists they should go greet everyone. First then she shoots a warning to watch their step as they start down the stairs, but Viola is fighting off a wave of pure shame, because just imagining how humiliating this is, even if she looks like a little kid, makes her cringe while their carriage sits parked out by the woods. Once they step outside, one maid yells Isla's name, while the other leans in and asks if the girl finally woke up and whether she's feeling okay. Isla blurts out that she's taking her to see the master right now, and the knight goes, that's incredible. Vala blurts out. Hila scooted in close and told Viola, they weren't mad at you at all. Everyone was seriously worried, then leaned closer and asked, so, you coming back later to hang out with us? Viola's completely caught off guard by the kindness, because it's been forever since anyone's been this genuinely nice to her, and it leaves her completely shaken as it jolts her to a stop, and she whips around as the other maids beam and wave goodbye with enormous smiles. As soon as they slip inside, Duke Noah wastes zero time. He sits down with a deadly serious face and demands her name and her age. Viola nearly blurts out her real name, then snaps back and tells him it's Vivi, and adds really fast that she's pretty sure she's 6 years old. Even with Isla standing right there, the room's mood turns heavy in seconds like, BMM&D and their why. Noah keeps pressing her, demanding to know why she passed out in a place like that. Viola hesitates, scrambling for a lie that actually sounds believable. She tells him she slipped away from a slave trader, but you can feel the panic inside her. She knew this question was coming. Noah asks if anyone else escaped with her, but she drops her eyes and whispers that she's completely alone-making. Noah's voice hits the air, and right before he says, I get it, the whole room goes deathly silent for a beat. Viola watches him like a hawk, trying to figure out if that answer truly makes him feel any better about what's going on. But then he presses, asking where she's really from, so she lies again, claiming she can't name her village because the woods are packed with countless little, nameless spots. Noah just freezes there, replaying everything in his head, and the moment he does, Viola's sweat starts pouring because she knows for sure he's clocking her story as suspicious. She clutches her clothes so tight her knuckles ache, determined her real identity will never slip then. Just like that, everything changes. Ayla strides in and asks the Duke for a minute right on cue, snapping his attention, and he saved Viola from the hot seat by blurting, the kid just woke up, he needs to eat something first. Noah doesn't hold back. He straight up tells her she may look like a kid, but she's a total stranger, and there's no way they'll let someone that suspicious just slip around without getting checked first. Viola finally gets it, because if she were the one in charge, she'd do the exact same thing too, since his whole job is protecting everyone. She's got to nail this first impression and prove she's not here to hurt anyone, but right before she can even speak, a shout blasts through the door from outside, demanding attention. A brutal voice barks, "Battle stations, now!" And everyone whips around, totally blindsided. Noah bolts straight to the window to figure out what's happening, and Isla and Viola are left standing there, brimming with worry. Outside is a total disaster. Those dark, shadowy monsters are swarming the camp and the carriage, and the guards and maids are losing their minds in full-blown panic. Noah clenches his teeth as he realizes there's no way out. Every side is surrounded, and this heavy, unsettling energy crawls off the enemies. He can't even wrap his head around it. He's watching these insane things show up right here in a place like this. Viola stares out, and her face drains of color. She knows exactly what those things are, and deep down she realizes this is going to be really bad. Noah snaps into commander mode and barks at Isla to yank up anyone who can't fight and sprint out, while the rest of them surge forward to slam the monsters back and buy time. Noah shoves a tiny blade into Isla's hands and orders her to take it, warning that if things spiral out of control, they'll have to figure out how to defend themselves. The island jolts with terror as one soldier spots the enemy shadow soldiers, and his voice cracks. "Scatter! Keep moving!" he barks, because he knows those monsters will try to pin them down, and the group starts tearing apart. Someone screams for Ayla to hurry, so she yanks Viola close and tells her they've got to move this way right now. Noah keeps Barking's orders locked in, screaming at his men not to dig in or brawl head-on, because swords won't scratch these monsters, and he wants every single one of them sprinting, dodging, and staying alive. The whole plan unravels in seconds then. A soldier gets swallowed by the dark smoke, shrieks that his arm's gone, and curses as the chaos drags him under. Monsters swarm in every direction, towering over the guards like living nightmares. And when Viola stares into that dark energy, she realizes it isn't just darkness at all. It's shadow flames. And in Nemus, everyone fears these beasts, absolute monsters, merciless and brutal, total killers. But Viola remembers her old life back when she served the high-level mage. And yeah, these things are basically just annoying pests. When she was a commander, she used to wipe out whole swarms around the city like they were nothing. But everything's changed. Her magic is totally sealed, and she's trapped in the body of a little kid, so she can barely even bolt, let alone fight back. As they keep sprinting, Viola shoots Isla a look and demands, "So it's really true? None of us can use any magic at all." Isla stares at the kid and tells her, "You're saying the weirdest things, because seriously barely anyone in this whole territory can use magic at all." She tells them she heard Nemus is packed with magic users, but right now, that news doesn't fix a thing. One of the guards shouts that Noah has the demon sword and a bunch of magic tools to deal with all this, trying to pump everyone up, but those shadow flames move like lightning, and the moment the soldiers step in, screams explode through the air. As they start getting ripped out of the line, one by one, Isla yells at Viola to hurry up and get over to the safe spot right now. She keeps staring back at the fight, and the dread hits. If it stays like this, Noah and the whole crew aren't getting out alive. She blurts out a shaky answer, totally torn up inside about what she's supposed to do next. Viola clocks the shift in her tone, snaps her eyes up, and asks Ayla what's going on. And Ayla just drops her gaze at him, wearing a sad little smile, and says, "I'm sorry," like she's already bracing for the rest of her confession. Her whole mission is to shield her master at any cost, even if it means she has to defy her own orders and charge straight into the danger instead of staying back. Isla grabs Viola and tells her, "You've got to keep running, don't look back," swearing Noah will come find her later, no matter what. Viola's face tightens with worry as she blurts, "Stop, don't you dare try to stay behind and throw yourselves away like that." Isla flashes a gentle smile and tells them, "If we stay right here, I'll buy enough time for you to slip away safe." She tells them, straight up, that Noah still saved their lives, and every other maid nods like, "Yeah, and we'd do it again. No regrets at all." Viola stands frozen, heart split in two, because she knows she can't touch a single shred of her usual magic right now, but then it clicks. She can take these things down with sorcery instead of relying on magic. She's terrified that using it will expose her as something more than just a normal kid because she can't stand by and just watch anymore. So she clenches her jaw, makes her choice, and charges back toward the fight to watch them die with her own eyes. Isla's jaw drops as she spots the little girl sprinting the wrong way, and she yells her name at the top of her lungs. Viola hits the ground hard, then whips her eyes around, desperate for a catalyst, something no bigger than her palm, or this plan won't work. Viola frantically scours the ground until her fingers clamp down on a stone, and she blurts, "Got it!" She jabs a finger at Isla and snaps, "Hand over that dagger right now," and Isla gasps and yells her name in pure shock as Viola snaps at her to hurry up. As the energy finally surges in, Ayla just freezes, eyes wide with disbelief, and blurts out, "Wait, what's going on?" Turns out that what people now call magecraft used to be known as alchemy, and it all boils down to one thing: pouring mana into stones and gems. He's not drawing on real magic anymore. He's using a keyword to flip them on. And while true spells tap into your own inner power, this one's something else entirely. It just taps into pure energy from nature. So yeah, anyone can do it. The only catch is it throws out only basic effects, so most people shrug and swear the whole art is basically worthless. Even with mages knowing it's real, nobody bothers to dig deeper than the bare history. Viola lays it out. Most folks think magic is the end-all, the better choice in every way, so they don't even bother chasing old languages for research, which is exactly. That's why she clung to her studies like a secret for so long, especially when everyone else didn't care a single bit about this kind of thing. She admits it's a little rough, but it'll hold then the second she activates a high-level gale wall shield to unleash a huge blast of wind and fling leaves everywhere around him. Viola blasts out a shout for everyone to hurry over right now and gather around her immediately. Noah steps in front of her and barks for everyone to huddle up, and the whole group surges toward her protection like a wall colliding into danger. He leans in and asks Ayla if she's okay, and she shoots back fast that she's fine, and then he just freezes, locked on Viola's back like he's in a trance, blurting out what she really is. She glances back with a bright smile and tells him, "It's okay, I've got you," sending him reeling in pure shock. Then she screams a warning things are about to get insanely loud, so they better slam their hands over their ears right now. Viola yells as a colossal spell ignites Flame Lance Starfall. Then she unleashes a blinding storm of light that it slams into its targets with such brutal force that everything gets swallowed whole in a roaring cloud of smoke. And just like that, boom, the entire squad of shadow soldiers gets erased in the blink of an eye. Noah froze in place, jaw hanging open, trying to wrap his head around the wild chaos that just went down. He blurts out, "So what are you?" Eyes wide as the insane magic she just unleashed leaves him completely speechless. Viola mutters that she definitely threw way too much energy into that one, and Isla instantly panics. Right as she crumples, he rushes in to catch her. Isla can't stop wondering who this girl really is, while Noah just stands there, eyes locked on the scene, stunned by the kid who just saved them, then flipped their whole lives upside down forever. Everything snaps into a memory. Someone is screaming for their majesty, and then a hand reaches out. His hand shot out toward the retreating figure, begging, "Why would you do something like this?" Viola shoots her arm out in total panic during her nightmare, shrieking for King Roy, but she wakes up inside a carriage rolling through bright, sunlit woods. A voice cracks through the fog, telling her she's finally awake, and she thrashes to shake off the dream like it's clinging to her. Noah and Ayla look like they can finally breathe again, because the girl is awake at last. Viola demands to know what happened, and Noah tells her she blacked out right after she beat that shadow monster. And it all crashes back into her. She remembers just how much magic she had to burn to win that fight. She suddenly snaps into worry for everyone else, and blurts out, "How's the rest of our unit holding up?" Noah doesn't mince words. He straight up says over half of them got injured, and things look downright grim. Even with everything smashed up, he makes sure she knows one brutal truth. No one actually died. She glanced back at her with a tiny smile and told her the truth. Everyone was still alive because of what she did. The carriage finally grinds to a stop at a towering estate, and the driver yells, "We're here!" Noah glances at Viola, then fires off, "All right, business time. You're hearing me out now." He steps right up into her space, eyes blazing, and demands the absolute truth, swearing he wants every single detail, no exceptions. So Viola blurts out the whole truth, and Noah just freezes at his desk, staring in stunned disbelief. He clocks that she's not lying, and for now he throws caution to the wind and trusts her. He lets her in on it later, the lockdown where she's staying, and figure out what happens next. Noah straightens up and tells her, "I can't fully wrap my head around your story, but one thing's crystal clear. You saved all of us." And he knows his squad would never let him get away with treating their savior like trash, so he has to thank her the way she truly deserves. He sinks into a deep bow, shows her real respect, and then finally calls her by her full name, Lady Viola Vikland. And Viola whips her gaze back to him with a massive grin, and she feels like a weight just lifted because he actually believes her. Noah tells Viola to keep their secret talk locked between the two of them, and Viola thanks him for understanding her. Hila hustles her down the hall and tells her it's been one brutal day, so she better crash and get some real sleep. Viola stumbles into a massive, fancy bedroom and just stands there stunned. She just can't resist. She flops face first into the bed like she's diving for cover. It feels unreal as she presses her face into those fluffy sheets, catching herself thinking, "I can't believe it's been this long since I had a bed like this." With the blanket shoved to her chest, it finally slams into her. She really made it out of that chaos alive. Her thoughts rocket through her head, those fake charges they cooked up to banish her, and then it hits her. The king's personality flipped completely. But then she clocks it. Too many things about this whole mess still don't add up, not even a little. Staring at that massive estate, she swears on the spot she'll dig up the truth then. Then the next morning hits, and Viola stumbles through these massive hallways, finally realizing just how ridiculously huge this place truly is. Viola freezes mid-step when a man's voice asks if the price can be lowered, and the second she hears it, she instantly knows exactly who it is. She slips a peek into the kitchen, spots the delivery guy chatting with Hila, and her gut instinct hits Ina really is there. He scratches his head, blurts out an apology, and swears he can't possibly drop the price another inch than what he already offered. But then he scrambles to fix it fast, promising their ingredients are extra fresh to justify the price. Viola watches with real sympathy, imagining what it must feel like for Ina to juggle the Duke's care while also keeping track of every coin. Later on, she catches a young guy fussing with his gear, ranting that his sword is completely wrecked and he needs a replacement right now. He tells his buddy, "Yo, the shadow attacks are going crazy lately," and then slams the truth. They didn't even have the gear to pull off the raid yesterday. So the other guy starts questioning whether they should really put magic tools at the top of the list, since they're getting new stuff anyway. They both realize the truth. Chasing more of everything is way too much when their budget is this tight. And as Viola keeps pressing deeper, she trips into this hidden room, and bam! She's left speechless by the giant mound of swords just casually piled everywhere. Bart drops to his knees on the floor, sorting through a chaotic pile of swords that still need to be dealt with. Vivi helps him out, and he thanks her because even now, he's still not used to juggling all this gear yet. Vivi hefts a bundle of swords over his shoulder and asks if this is the right spot to set them down, and he just nods. Yeah, that's perfect. He thanks her again, and she has to pause just long enough to stare at him. Bart clocks her staring at his bandage, brushes it off like it's nothing, just a tiny leftover from yesterday. But then it clicks. She's the girl who saved him. He blurts out, "Wait, is it really you?" And she finally tells him her name, Vivi. He flashes her a huge grin and introduces himself as Bart. After thanking her one last time, he admits that without her showing up, everything would have gone way off the rails. But Vivi's eyes are heavy, as she admits she's still hurting too, because it kills her that he got hurt at all. Bart drops to her level and calls her out. She's wrong. And the whole squad lights up with gratitude, while even the Duke steps in, thanking her like it's the most important thing in the world. Vivi starts overthinking. She only knows the Duke from what she's seen on paper. If she's really going to be stuck around him, she's got to figure out who he is for real. And then so she asks Bart what kind of person Dukefeld is, and Bart freezes with a stunned look like, "Wait, why are you bringing him up?" But he pauses for a second to think, then tells her the guy's got a mountain of creepy rumors swirling around him. Yet the truth is, he's actually really nice to everyone working under him. Bart blurts out that the Duke and his uncle have some serious past, and Vivi just keeps repeating uncle over and over, totally lost. He admits he doesn't even have the whole story himself, but somehow it feels like the chaos never lets up. Bart flashes a shaky smile and admits, "If a fight starts, I'm done for, I'm crippled, and I just get tossed aside anyway." Vivi keeps her chin up and asks, "So that means the Duke's not a villain, right? Because no decent man would pull something like that." And Bart shoots off a nervous little laugh, tells her sure, but you can tell he's nowhere near convinced himself. They huddle on the bench for a moment, and then Bart blurts out, "Can I ask you something too?" He brings up the magic she used to save him and tells her, flat out, he never had a clue she could pull off something that incredible. Vivi stares at the problem, scrambles for an answer, and realizes the full truth could blow up in her face, so she decides to turn this mess into an opportunity. So she lifts a finger to the sky and tells him, just call it magic, or something close enough, so this can finally be simple. She flashes Bart a sly grin and tells him, just think of my power as roughly in that same league. Vivi then leans in and tells you the truth, this magic doesn't care about your age, your origin, or anything about you at all. And talent? That doesn't even matter because sorcery isn't some untouchable miracle. Anyone can pull it off if they're willing to put their heart into learning it, and Bart's eyes practically light up at the idea, like he can't believe it. Vivi scoots close and quizzes Bart, asking if he really wants to learn magic for himself. Then Bart's nerves spike as he blurts, yeah, I guess I do. And before he can, she fires Vivi up, stands tall, and tells him to relax. She'll guide him through every single step herself. Bart bursts into laughter and jokes that he might actually have to hunt her down one of these days and ask her to teach him a few things. Vivi locks in a super intense stare, tells him they're starting from the very beginning, every single bit of the complete history of sorcery. But then, bam, the Duke storms in out of nowhere, snatches them mid-moment, and demands to know exactly what they think they're doing. Vivi bursts into a shocked shout when a hand suddenly lunges out, snatches her, and yanks her away. The Duke ambushes Bart with a sudden command and barks, "Get over here right this second!" He slumps back in his chair and tells Vivi she's being way too careless. But Vivi doesn't look bothered for even a second. He warns her that someone might be setting her up, then demands, "Why are you running around telling everyone who you are?" But Vivi stays silent while he tells her, straight up, to stop trusting people so fast. Vivi's eyes darken, and she thinks, this is it, my best shot. And she's convinced those who framed her will trip up eventually, especially the moment they hear a girl who looks just like the vice captain they booted. Knowing they'll clock her in a heartbeat, she decides to risk it, then lures them out herself. She finally clicks. If she's really being banished from the capital, then someone out there is pulling the strings behind the scenes like a mastermind with her fate in their hands. She's going to be right there waiting, ready to smash them at their own game, because she knows she's not the one who's wrong. Vivi hears a rumor about some kid using magic, and she knows it won't spread fast, especially when her own power is sealed away and she's trapped in this body. She looks genuinely scared because the moment she thinks about it, they're short-staffed and outmatched for any real fight. But Noah just stands there, radiating pure heavy-hitter energy like the real deal, with the name and the army they need to flip the whole game. Vivi strides up to his desk and asks, "What's wrong?" And Noah doesn't mince words. He admits they're getting buried under these monster raids, and they can't keep up anymore, and things are getting desperate fast now. Even the head is stuck arguing over the price of food just to keep everyone fed. He admits they can't get a single new magic tool, so the guys are out there fighting anyway, using gear that's basically held together by pure luck. And after those non-stop attacks keep eating away at their cash for repairs and grueling expeditions, they finally snap at the worst possible moment. Vivi slams her hands down and blurts out that she's got a plan to fix everything. So she locks eyes with him, flashes a massive grin, and asks why he won't just try using her. Noah sounds totally unconvinced, grilling her on what she means by using her. But Vivi doesn't even blink. She just slams down a massive, instant yes. She dives straight into it, rattling off everything she can pull off from fixing their money troubles by crafting magic tools. She lays out straight-up military battle plans and drills, then drops the wild idea that she could one day help him build a whole magic soldier corps from nothing. She's digging into her past, hard reminding him that as the former vice captain of the Nemus Kingdom's Mage Division, she's got the experience. To make it happen, she puts on a dazzling performance, swearing she'll back the Duke in every way she can. But Noah doesn't buy her story. He leans back, locks eyes with her, and demands to know the real motive behind all this sudden help. Somebody nearby erupts in a shout, like they're in total disbelief at what they just heard then. That scream barrels all the way outside. Vivi steadies herself, flashes that sweet, innocent smile, and tells him she just wants to repay him for saving her life earlier. But deep down, she's running the real game. She knows if she plays it smart like this, the rumors will explode on their own, and she won't have to lift a finger. The finger... She can't shake the feeling her act might have been way too obvious, but she admits plain as day that her repayment story is usually just a straight-up lie, and then she realizes, in the end, it doesn't even matter. Vivi stares at the guy sprawled on the ground, and the magic he's been throwing hits her like a memory too familiar, just like the power from that incident back when it all went down, and she can't stop herself from realizing it, and then it hits her. Every puzzle piece clicks into place. If this guy is tied to her past, releasing him to run wild might be her best bet, because she's betting that sooner or later he'll drag her right to the people she's hunting. She stares at her own hands and reminds herself she's not that helpless little kid anymore. Everything's changed. And finally, she's got the power to strike back for real revenge in her own hands, on her terms. But back in the room, Noah admits he feels awful for pulling Vivi into his mess, and Vivi just flashes a smile secretly, thinking he's the one who should be sorry because she's totally using him. Noah finally nods and accepts her deal, promising he'll take her up on the offer, while Vivi smiles and plays it cool, calling it a generous proposal and insisting she'd love to help out. Just so. Right then, Aina barges in to check on everyone. She quickly brushes off the moment and tells them she brought a fresh pot of tea for the table. As Aina pours the drinks, she whips around to Vivi and demands what she's planning to do next. Noah clocks that Vivi and her crew are actually pulling their weight, so he shrugs and lets them run the show. For now, Aina nods and swears she gets it. Vivi's eyes burn with steel. She finally knows the moment is here, and she's ready to make her move. Noah stares at an old family photo his parents' faces, smudged out then. Says he finally cracked a real lead on the people who murdered them. As he takes a sip of tea, he swears he'll hunt down the culprit, no matter what it costs. Meanwhile, at a different estate, a messenger finally drops the report to his lord. Then the lord just growls. And the next thing happens. And right away, the guy starts digging into that report section where a kid pulls off some seriously weird magic. He whips around to the messenger and snaps that he took way too long to bring this info, but the messenger doesn't go down without a fight. He insists he was actually hurt in the monster attack, and that's why he's running late. The lord didn't care one bit. He stared at him like he was nothing but dirt, then spit insults, calling him useless trash while declaring commoners were all incompetent. He snaps at the guy to get lost, and the messenger practically bolts out of the room on the spot. One of his aides tries to talk back, but the lord just smirks and waves it all off, like it doesn't matter one bit. The boy strides down the long hallway, casually tossing out the idea that if you talk too much, you'll get the punishment you truly deserve. Meanwhile, Vivi just crawls out of bed, stretches like a cat, and lets out this huge yawn as she gears up for the day. She's still riding that when she finally got everyone to cooperate, but now she's staring at the mess, wondering where in the world they're supposed to start. As she strides through the manor, she spots a knot of maids and another staff member posted by a door, staring like they've seen something. Something's off, and Vivi can't ignore it. This place is getting louder by the second, chaos swallowing everything. She strides up to the group and asks, "What happened?" while everyone else stares at her with scared, worried faces. Suddenly, she flashes back to someone laughing and promising, "I'd love for you to teach me a few things someday." But the moment she peeks into the room and spots a guy sprawled face down on the floor, her whole world freezes and she's left completely stunned. She's totally freaked out, gaping at him, panicking over how this even happened and why her life crashed into this mess. As she moves, the other staff barrels in right behind her, bombarding her with questions while everyone freezes, staring at the body like, "Okay, what is Bibi gonna do next?" Noah looms over the aftermath with an ice-cold stare, while Bibi just freezes, whispering his title in pure, stunned disbelief. The nearby staff member is trembling, stammering that he only went to check the weapons, and then he found the guy like that. Noah stays ice calm and tells Ina to take over the rest, and she snaps to it so fast that before he can even... So she slipped away with the group, checking on everyone, even as the other maids stood there, shaking still, clearly freaked out by what they'd just seen. Noah snaps his head back to Vivi and asks if she's been to Ina's quarters, yet she just stands there, silent, wearing a dark look that screams something's wrong. She's clutching her dress so tight, her knuckles turn bone white, staring at what just happened, like, why now right, when they finally crawled out of the worst of it? A flash of Bart's memory hits her like a wave back when he was on Cloud 9, because Noah finally saw his magic for what it was, while everyone else just mocked him. Noah put a steadying hand on Vivi's head and swore that, as her lord, he would make sure his subordinate's killer paid guaranteed. She drops her gaze, answers softly, and tries to make sense of everything crashing down on her as the camera locks onto the body on the floor. Brutal sword-carved wounds are laid bare straight up, identical to a blade's work. Noah studies the body up close and hammers home the truth. There's zero sign this guy was dragged, which means he was murdered right there on the spot. As he scans the room, he realizes nobody from the outside could have slipped in because there definitely weren't supposed to be any guests today. So Vivi cranes her neck, trying to make sense of the fact this was an inside job and just asking herself who in the world would dare pull off something like this. Right then, Vivi feels something off in the air, and she instantly clocks it. There's leftover mana hanging around in the room, and it's just not finished yet. Noah spots something on the floor, lunges to grab it, while Vivi leans in, demanding to know what he found. He thrusts his hand forward, showing her a handful of tiny fragments. Then she stares and asks, "So, are these just some kind of stones?" She leans in, studies the piece up close, and bam, she feels a faint, magical pulse spilling from it. It hits her. These aren't just rocks at all. They're catalysts, and someone drained every last drop of them. Vivi tells Noah the stones were meant to cast a spell, and when he wonders if that means someone used magic here, she leans in and says it's almost certain. She steps in for the last check, stares at the wound, and confirms that the exact same magical energy is still clinging to the body. Vivi studies the clues and realizes it loud and clear only sorcery truly uses catalysts like these, meaning every mage has their own one-of-a-kind energy signature. Everyone in her world knows that, and then she starts snapping those clues into place, piece by piece, and Noah stares at the body and demands a straight answer. Was that really the magic that killed her? Vivi suddenly catches the energy trail, and her instincts scream. No real mage would be this reckless, especially not against a brand new beginner, because it's just too obvious. She snaps to it instantly. No trained pro would ever pull a job like this, because the whole setup reeks of something far more calculated. Way too sloppy, like the killer wanted to get caught, leaving behind this giant neon trail right to her name. Meanwhile, deep in the woods, this young fugitive starts panicking out of nowhere. He can't believe they clocked him that fast. And he straight up says, with a duke like Noah watching, we're toast no matter how hard we dress up like soldiers, they'll catch us. He barrels through the trees, yelling at the others to bolt right now because suddenly the time for waiting is over, but Noah is already on top of him, stepping out with a cold, lethal stare then. He snaps at the guy to freeze exactly where he stands. The young guy freezes solid, then snaps into action when he realizes he's face to face with the Duke, stammering the title like it'll save him, because he already knows he's in a terrible spot. Vivi's eyes pinch shut as it all clicks into place. Then she freezes for a beat, spots one detail that flips the whole world, and she just starts to. And she doesn't pull any punches. She tells the guy to his face that the magic energy that vanished at the scene matches him perfectly, then locks eyes with him and declares he's the one who killed Mr. Burt, leaving. He's panicking, desperately trying to play it cool like she's just spewing nonsense, and he blurts out what magic traces even mean, acting like the whole idea is insane, like he can't even believe she's saying it since. He whips his head toward Noah, panicked, begging the Duke to tell him, are you really going to throw out your own words for some random kid's story? He keeps pushing, barking that a kid's word doesn't count as proof, until Vivi slams the brakes, cuts him off, and fires back, asking if he's seriously trying to argue about evidence. She holds her ground and tells him straight to his face that she can see every single thing he's trying to hide, leaving him totally frozen, baffled, and clueless. Vivi exhales hard, shuts her eyes like she's done with the excuses, and snaps that if he's going to be difficult, then what can anyone do? And, right then, his face twists, the mask drops, and he finally confesses getting caught this fast was a huge blunder. Magic whips and spirals around him as he braces to fight. But Vivi isn't finished. She snaps that he clearly never had time to wash up before he ran, because there's a huge blood splatter still staining his clothes. Vivi jabs a finger at him and tells him to his face that his little blinding tricks won't work on her, because since magic and sorcery aren't exactly everyday sights in this country, it's obvious he's sticking out like a sore thumb. Noah's standing there keeps pushing the moment, calling him out for wasting her time with half-baked spells that never impress her, no end in sight. Noah studies the guy like he's solving a mystery, then snaps, "Who on earth taught you magic like that?" But before he gets the answer, the moment flips. But Vivi's patience snaps. She warns him that if he won't talk, she'll drag the truth out of him herself. A chilling look flashes in her eyes, and she snaps that she's terrified because she can't afford to be gentle with him right now. And the second the magic starts blazing, she snaps to him straight up that he's not getting away. She unleashes it, and boom, that guy gets slammed by a gigantic swirl of magic. The guy stares in full-blown shock as Vivi stands her ground and tells him to throw in the towel, accept his fate, because it's over. Noah lunges for his blade, muttering that if it has to end like this, then so be it. He finally admits the real orders were just to get rid of that useless guy, but it's obvious something shifted, because Vivi is totally thrown, staring like, wait, what do you mean by orders, and who's pulling the strings? The attacker shrugs it off, eyes Noah, and spits out that he must be the kid from the report, while Noah and Vivi stay locked and loaded in the woods, ready for whatever comes next. The guy flashes a creepy grin, cackling like, man, your boss will be over the moon if you come back with Noah's head as a bonus. Vivi's instincts scream something's off, and she spots him slamming a magic formula straight onto the ground. Panic hits her hard when she clocks it. He's shoving raw energy into a catalyst that's already drained, a move so suicidal it's basically guaranteed to explode on contact. Before she even gets a chance to react, the entire area detonates in a blinding burst of light and raw energy. Vivi's eyes go wide with pure terror as her thoughts scream, there's no way I can move fast enough to stop that blast or protect them. But Noah won't let it happen. He clenches his sword with both hands and snaps, no. In a blink, Noah whips his blade and slices straight through the magic crystals before they can hit again. Then he calmly asks the guy if he's basically useless, once there's no catalyst doing the heavy lifting. The attacker just freezes there, jaw hanging wide, staring in stunned disbelief like there's no way anyone could crush his magic that easily. Vivi just freezes, wide-eyed as the catalyst pieces rain down, and she can't wrap her head around the fact that Noah smashed the entire thing in one swing of his sword. Noah whips around to ask if she's hurt, and she shoots back that she's completely fine, but even as the attacker starts to look a little rattled, he finally admits He's barely got any experience going up against people who actually know how to handle magic. Noah locks eyes with Vivi and tells her he needs her strength because he can't do this alone, and the words are already cutting off into the next breath. He thrusts his hand out and begs her to grab on because the next part is about to hit hard. Vivi gazes up at him, her eyes glassy with tears as she chokes out his name, but Noah stays ice calm and shoots back, asking straight up if there's even a real reason to be questioning everything right now. He brings up what he said before, and Vivi's eyes sharpen with confidence. She tells him to go on and tap into her power, because the moment to strike is right now. The attacker just shrugs it off, cackling and mocking them for being kids. Then Vivi fires back, saying of course they can, and she ends it by ripping into his skills, sneering that his magic technique is nothing but a clueless amateur trying to flex the stuff they just learned. Vivi swings in without mercy, slams his technique as totally low level, and the guy instantly starts sweating, scrambling to pretend it doesn't hit him. The guy starts snapping, demanding to know what she just said to him, while it all hits his nerves like wildfire. Vivi shoots him this smug grin and says, "Get ready, this is what the real thing actually looks like." He snaps and calls her a cheeky brat, but the moment he swings to lash out, the air around them suddenly twists, and the entire area gets yanked into a raging storm, a massive swirl of magic power tearing through everything. The attacker just freezes in place, utterly dazed, barely able to wrap his head around what he's seen. Vivi keeps her cool while flames whip around her, breezing that this is just basic flame magic, and she fires the question at him, does he even know what high-ranking magic is supposed to look like, right as the spells start smashing into a whole new, way more intense level. She locks eyes with him and finally decides she can't keep torturing him any longer. Now it's time to put an end to it. She stares at the shattered pieces in her palm and realizes just how brutal it is to track down a decent catalyst outside Nerthus while she's trying to scoop up every last useful thing she can. Bibi spots her juice bar fading fast, and panic hits. She swears she's got enough power for only a couple more moves. She stands before a massive swirl of magic, heart racing, because she knows she has to end this fast or the guy she's fighting is about to slip right out, barely hanging on as he groans through the pain. Noah barrels straight into the chaos to back Vivi up, planting himself between her and the threat. The attacker starts to clock at his odds of winning or basically toast. Bibi stares him down and tells him to quit trying. He should just give in and accept his fate, but right when she's about to finish, a blinding flash detonates straight in her face, stealing the moment instantly. She throws her hands over her eyes, spots the flashbang for what it is, and rips him for pulling such a painfully cheap stunt while she stumbled back through the trees, utterly blinded, terror clenching her as she feared she'd lose her footing for good. The crystal that sparked the chaos flares one last time, then it explodes into 1,000 glittering shards. Noah grips Bibi tight, blurts out if she's okay, and she shoots back a quick nod like nothing happened. Then, she suddenly snaps her hand out and tells him to wait, groaning in pure frustration. She stares at her empty hands and it hits her. Her catalyst is completely gone. She's sure she must have dropped it the second that explosion tore the air apart, but then she can't let those guys slip away. She just freezes, staring at her own hands in total shock. That messenger is sprinting through the woods like his life depends on it, and you can tell he's furious. He didn't even get to finish the "this sucks" part. Kill Vivi and the Duke then. Since the big job's done, he just has to report back. Suddenly, he whips around and screams because a monstrous wave of magic is swirling wildly right in front of him. Noah and Bibi hit their fighting stance, staring dead ahead like they're about to go all in serious time while Vivi realizes it, catalyst or not, her magic is exploding out of her like it's overflowing from the inside. Vivi stares at her own hand, frozen in disbelief at what she's seeing. Right there on the ground sat the catalyst ring she swore she'd lost. She snatches it up, grins wide, and says, "No way, this actually couldn't be more perfect for us." Then Boomer magic locks in and turns into one massive, crushing focus strike. The messenger whips his head back and panics hard, realizing he's not slipping out of this that easy. Noah clamps down on Vivi with a death grip as her magic spirals out of control. Then boom! A massive explosion slams through the woods, ripping the earth right out from under his feet while he's still running. Dark shadows slam him to the dirt, and he can barely pull in a breath. So Vibi strides right up to him and demands he start talking. She locks eyes with him, then demands, right through the silence, that he spill every single thing he's been hiding. The messenger is still pinned to the ground when he suddenly snaps, still then screams that something else is about to hit. A colossal, nightmarish deer beast, swathed in choking dark smoke, stomps out of the trees like it owns the forest. Noah demands, "Wait, are you really a magic beast?" While Vivi's brain short-circuits trying to figure out how the heck something like that even slipped inside the ground's butt. But the messenger erupts into wild, maniac laughter and blurts that the message is from him. He's 100% sure his boss threw that monster at him to save him, but there's one problem: he just can't bring himself to believe it. He doesn't let up. He jabs a finger at Vivi and declares that she's the kid they've been searching for. The monster looms over him and growls those nasty, cracked sounds, like it's obsessed with the idea of ending his life. It creeps in tighter, and the guy finally snaps something off. He pleads, begging it to stop. Noah finally snaps into it, slams his fist, and yells at Lord Norman, demanding to know what the hell is happening before. But before he can lift a finger, the messenger unleashes one last blood-curdling scream as the beast crashes in. The dark deer beast hurls out a hulking breath of smoke, thick as fog, and Vivi lunges forward, totally freaked out, grabbing for anything she can to fix this fast. But then she realizes her magic won't light up without a catalyst, so she's trapped in place as the curse hits, right as she and Noah lock arms and hold their ground in the woods, a massive creature looms, ready to crush them. Right when the tension spikes, the monster streaks into a blur and vanishes, so it's just the two of them left, locked in stunned silence, staring at a patch of grass that's suddenly empty where it was just a second ago. Noah demands to know if that really was a magic beast and why it showed up here, then immediately admits he has absolutely no clue. Vivi can't stop thinking about that creature because its energy felt totally unlike anything she'd ever sensed in a normal beast. She looks rattled to the core, demanding to know who in the world could be behind this. Noah stares forward and tells her, straight up, that the moment's already gone. It's too late. Vivi stares at the dark, stained ground below, and you can tell she's completely lost, like none of this makes sense anymore. Replaying the monster in her mind, she screams inside that she could have stopped it the second it appeared, but and once again, she couldn't shake that crushing feeling that she'd missed her chance just like before. Noah takes off walking, telling her this fight isn't finished yet, and Vivi stays right on his heels. He starts freaking out, asking, why would anyone murder a guy just to silence him using a monster? Vivi's eyes bulge as she realizes Beast didn't grab some random target, he picked someone on purpose. The Duke looks absolutely certain of himself, and just like he promised, this fight isn't even close to over. And it all loops back to the real reason Mr. Burt was murdered, and how the killer got wiped out in the end too. It all funnels back to that freaky monster, and now they're finally sure of one thing. As Bibi pushes through the trees, a chill hits, because she realizes someone else out there is actually casting magic. Ever since King Roy went through that insane change, he's been on a non-stop mission to lock down every scrap of info about sorcery. Nobody's finding a single trace. And sure, people beyond Nemus might think they know magic, but trust me, you're not going to find a single sorcerer out in the open, just casually hanging around. Noah whips his head toward Vivi and says, the guy who just died mentioned Lord Norman right before he went so. Tell me, does that name ring any bells? Vivi stares in total shock as Noah drops the twist turns out that man is actually his uncle, which is exactly why Bart brought them up as enemies, and Noah even admits it's 100% true. Ever since his parents were slaughtered, his uncle has been consumed by one obsession, stealing his title, and he's even unleashed his own men to hunt him down. So ever since he was a little kid, Noah hasn't dared to trust anybody outside his inner circle. Vivi stares at him with crushing pity, and it clicks. This is exactly why they all started calling him the Duke of Ice. Noah drops into a crouch and scans the area, realizing this is the first time his uncle has ever tapped a subordinate who can actually use magic. He can't stop replaying it because in his gut, his uncle's been totally disconnected from the magic world his entire life. Vivi points out the obvious: there's no way some random subordinate just picked up magic like that out of nowhere, completely on his own. And Noah can't stop wondering if it's his uncle pulling the strings, or if the culprit is someone he's never even seen. Someone had to have taught him that specific spell, no question. Vivi's eyes snap with a sharp, sudden realization. Someone's using magic right beside the Duke's uncle. She starts snapping the pieces together. The uncle, the magic, and Nemesis, and the more she connects them, the more she feels it. There are still secrets lurking underneath. Noah snaps out of it, drops the waiting, and tells her straight up that he's going to march over and ask the man directly. He grabs the moment and says, "Let's hit my uncle's place right now," and Vivi immediately agrees, ready to head out with him. Deep in the woods, a lone deer freezes in a silent clearing for just a heartbeat before it. Then it gets yanked out of the fight and crashes into the grass with a thunderous thud. As a woman in a nun's disguise lurks in the trees, her grin razor creepy as she whispers Viola's real name to herself. The nun lurks in the shadows, grinning like a ghost, and it hits her hard. She never thought she'd spot her target here. She locks eyes with a razor-sharp glare, instantly clocking that Vivi's a massive roadblock to everything they're trying to pull off. And then she even flashes the thought of ending her life on the spot. But as she sees Noah and Vivi fade into the distance, she snaps to a new decision. She's changing her mind, for now. With a smug grin, she leans in and whispers that she'll see them again, soon calling herself a human magic user and making it sound like a promise. The scene snaps to a rattling carriage bouncing down a muddy dirt road, charging straight toward the uncle's estate, while the suspense hangs in the air. While Vivi sits inside, flipping through books, she can't stop wondering what's been going down in Nemus since she left. When Noah warns that the country is still totally cut off, zero contact with the rest of the world, he says they've been tightening the rules like crazy, so anyone on the outside has zero clue what's really going on in there. Noah slumps with his head in his hand, muttering that they're basically stumbling around in the dark, and Vivi just can't argue. She stands there thinking hard. Like, yeah, I get it. Nobody clocks her face, so no one even asks what's gnawing at her or what's really bothering her inside. Viola stands in front of Noah's desk and jabs at the truth. Nems and the Duke's uncle are tied together, no doubt about it, setting everything in motion for. Until the truth hit hard, the only thing they truly share is magic itself. She blurts out how strange it feels to be cut off from the outside world, then hits you with the truth. This goes deeper than that. She tells you that in good old Nemesis, magic is basically extinct. Almost nobody even bothers to use it anymore. Turns out King Roy's been wiping out all magic so brutally, people get terrified and choke on the very word, and it all leads to... The wild part was that some outsider was using it, and she couldn't stop wondering if that guy was even really from Nemes. Noah just sits there, shakes his head, and blurts out, "I don't think so." Eyes locked forward as he looks, rage bubbling in his chest. He just admitted he believed the guy was a loyal servant for years, then realized he'd been set up the whole time. Viola glances sideways, and you can tell it hits her hard. Watching real magic in action leaves her rattled, terrified of what's going down back home. She insists that even after exile, it's still her home and she can't stop worrying about it. Viola starts spiraling over what happens if magic actually goes mainstream in Nemus, and she's so lost in her own thoughts that Noah has to snap her name out loud before. She panics hard, spiraling over whether her exile was just some secret move to keep her in the dark. Thowan amelon healan tawan himelon you amelon shemelon and salban kamald and calvin curl cal called balisms hell fen sail first. She tries to slam the brakes on the chaos, saying they should drop the jokes, but Noah can't even tell if she's joking for real, so she leans toward the window and says, "The country was already a total wreck the moment I left between all that chaos with the magic users and that demon beast." She stares out the window and admits this whole situation is giving her an awful, gut-wrenching vibe. She claims she's hoping for the best, but her eyes scream she's bracing for disaster, like a bad ending is already creeping closer, and it's about... Noah promises her he'll do everything he can on his end to dig up info on Nemus, and she replies with an extremely polite "thank you." Later, Viola sinks into a carriage seat and can't stop worrying what if her father and the whole kingdom aren't going to make it. But then... Meanwhile, somewhere else in the city, chaos is already ramping up, loud, messy, and out of control. A guy gets cornered by guards, and he starts screaming at the top of his lungs that he's innocent. He didn't do a single thing wrong. A thunderous voice rips through the city's chaos, barking at everyone to shut up and listen to An accuser whips out and points straight at a guy, screaming that he stormed the castle, tried to murder the king, and swears they've already got every shred of proof they need. The accused man lunges in to stop them, screaming that they've got nothing on him and that he's innocent. But then things unravel, because but no matter what they do, he won't stop shouting that he's innocent, and he swears he's never even stepped foot in that castle. They slam him into a cage, and as panic surges, he thrusts out his hand, begging anyone at all, to just believe him. People in the crowd can't believe it. Are we really doing this again? They're whispering that the whole country's falling into chaos. Two women linger off to the side, whispering like it's a sport, and one leans in to ask if the others heard the newest rumors yet. She blurts out that the general store owner's daughter is still gone, vanished into thin air with no trace. She can't wrap her head around it. An entire month has already passed since the girl vanished. And then it's like, turns out the shop owner across the street has been missing for 2 whole months, and nobody in town has a clue where any of them went. In this city, people are spiraling, asking where everyone vanished to, clinging to one desperate hope: please, let them be found soon. Missing person posters plaster the walls, and everyone's whispering the same thing. It's not only the crime that's terrifying, it's how many people are disappearing that's getting downright scary. Staring up at that castle, the locals look like they're about to snap, scratching their heads, furious, and begging to know what the hell has been happening to their country lately. Tucked inside a secret hidden room, a gigantic cannon-like machine hums with eerie glowing runes etched in unnatural magic. King Roy stands shoulder to shoulder with it, and right beside him lurks that mysterious woman in a nun outfit, leaning in like she owns the shadows. Roy leans in and asks if the work's truly rolling the way it should, and the soldier next to him swears that everything is going perfectly. But the soldier stares at that colossal machine and blurts out, "So, what in the world is this thing even supposed to do?" He's visibly trembling, asking if this is really meant for war, and Roy just locks eyes on him, glaring with those unnerving, slit-like stare that sends chills down your spine. Roy leans in and tells the guy, "Relax, nothing's on you. You don't have to know a single thing." Fear flashes across the soldier's face for a split second, then nothing. His expression turns dead blank, like someone erased his mind on the spot. The creepy woman in a nun outfit claims she finally understands the plan, while the kid stuck between them looks absolutely terrified. King Roy looks like he's slipping, scratching the back of his head with a dazed, blank stare, like his brain can't even catch up to what's happening. So the woman tells him to move, and Roy just blurts out this crazy shout like he's totally out of it. Next, he charged into a gigantic library packed wall to wall with dusty old books. A woman stands right in front of Roy's desk and presses him. "So how's Duke Viklund doing these days?" She flashes this icy little smile and shrugs like, "Trust me, it changes nothing at all." Her eyes look downright terrifying as she blurts out that the Duke is still groveling, swearing his daughter is innocent-like. That's supposed to change anything, and she's furious he didn't accept the truth way earlier. Roy sits there, hands clasped tight, and gives her a quick, straight answer, "I get you." She tells you, even if the Duke once did wonders for the country, he's still the father of a criminal today. With a creepy grin, she tells him he has to be forced to finally see just how awful that truly is. In a pitch-black dungeon, a lone man slumps behind iron bars, staring into the dark while King Roy locks into a stressed stare, jaw tight, whispering that he knows exactly what's happening. He's slumped at his desk, mumbling "criminal" over and over like the word is fighting him, and he's trying to crack the meaning. Roy's jaw drops. He can't believe Vivi would really do those things, insisting to himself that it has to be impossible. But the woman in the nun outfit slams the brakes on him right away, declaring that Viola Viklund was trying to spread magic, an act she calls a suspicious art alm. Then she leans in even closer and drops the bombshell that Viola is a deadly criminal who plotted to kill him, so they sent her away. Roy's eyes bulge with pure terror as she blurts that they had to slap a forbidden spell on the girl just so she'd never be able to do anything evil again. She shoots him this wide-eyed, bone-chilling stare and flat-out warns him not to miss a single detail. Roy makes a soft little noise and nods along like he's hypnotized, totally caught in her grip from that moment on. She finally blurts out, she has to leave prayer. Time is almost here. And Roy just shrugs it off with a casual, "Okay." Still playing her saint, she marches right on, telling the king her duty is to stay in the prayer room. So she makes it crystal clear to Roy, do not, under any circumstances, bother her while she's in there. As she strides down the hall all by herself, she exhales hard and blurts out, "That was way too close." She knows she's got to redo the hypnosis on him soon, because if he ever gets his head straight, everything's about to go chaotic. Staring out the window, She dreams of one thing, every scrap of magic in the kingdom sliding into her hands the moment the experiment is finished. She leans over the edge, eyes locked on the city beneath, consumed by the need to land her revenge at last. Her expression contorts into a wicked grin as she screams that those humans stole magic from her people. Then her rant cuts off in a snap. She suddenly remembers she's got a guest coming later today. She blurts out that she has to get back to that person's side, and boom, just like that. And just like that, she's gone. Only a nasty, shadowy puddle stains the floor. The carriage finally jerks to a halt, and right then, someone yells that they've arrived. Noah stared at the giant mansion and couldn't believe it. How long had it been since he'd last set foot here? The moment they crossed the threshold, a whole line of maids springs into view, ushering them in and practically welcoming Duke Feld back home. A staff member points them straight to the stairs and blurts that the master's already inside waiting for them. The Duke's uncle bursts in wearing a huge grin, practically glowing as he says he's been dying to see Noah again after all this time. He drags up the old days, saying the last time they ever really saw each other was at Noah's parents' funeral. Nowhere doesn't even look down, just stays polite, nodding like, yeah, it really has been forever since all of that. Viola steps back, watches it all unfold, and then the truth hits. This guy isn't just anyone, he's the Duke's uncle. And then she spots a woman in a fancy dress nearby, and that woman can't stop wondering if Viola really is the Duke's wife. Viola just freezes in place, completely stunned by everything going on. The woman in the dress smirks at them, and this uneasy dread crawls up her spine like something is seriously off about all of it. And Lord Norman whips his gaze to the maid standing nearby and demands to know her name. Viola flashes him a graceful curtsy and tells him it's a pure honor to meet him. Noah steps in and tells his uncle the real reason she's staying with them, no questions, because of some specific circumstances. Norman flashes a grin and leans in, asking if Noah really came here for more than just to visit which. They're herded into the sitting area, and Norman just nods like he's got it all figured out, saying, I see exactly how it is. Noah tries to call him out, but Norman just stares back and goes, so what? What's the problem? The room suddenly goes silent as Noah snaps his gaze downward, clearly seething at the way his uncle is acting. Norman flashes a smug grin and insists the whole mess was only the handiwork of some imposter. He doubles down hard, insisting he never gave orders like that and flat out claiming he doesn't even know the guy Noah's talking about. Norman stays ice cold, smirks, and asks why anyone would even send a spy just to know his place, like there's a point in it, and then he cuts off the explanation and Viola locks eyes with him, trying to figure out if he's telling the truth or if he's selling her a lie about everything. She replays it in her head. The plan to take out the Duke looked perfect until everything crashed. And still, but as it clicks for her, she realizes the Duke is still on the hunt, staring around to see if anyone caught the move he just pulled. It's not even about watching. He's just biding his time, hunting for the perfect moment to slam the job shut. But something about it still screams wrong to her. Especially since the Ice Duke, of all people, dropped in with some random little girl. Norman doesn't even blink. It looks like her showing up is exactly what he expected. The way he carries himself makes it feel like he already saw her coming, like he'd been waiting for her all along, which only makes Viola can't stop wondering, just how much has this guy really cracked? And does he even know she's from Nemes? Norman just takes slow sips of his tea, smirking like he's untouchable, insisting there's absolutely no way he'd ever do something like that to his favorite nephew. Norman pauses and lets the silence hit hard, then sets his tea down like he's about to say something, or maybe he's not sure what to do next. He just wants to find out, does Noah have real proof to back up those claims, or is he just blowing smoke? Norman pretends to be the victim and fires off the same old line. Prove it, because without evidence it's just a made-up accusation, and he even calls those guesses pathetic. He leans in with a nasty grin, says it's exactly like what happened with Noah's mom and dad, and that comment lands like a punch to the gut. Viola shoots a look at the Duke and sees just how hard it's getting to him. Under the heavy chandeliers, the whole room goes deadly silent. So tense, it feels like you could slice it with a blade. Noah locks eyes with him and growls that it all feels exactly the same as before, the same games, the same lies, like time never moved. Viola snaps to attention. Oh no, they totally botched it, and now she's praying they'd used magic to capture the messenger's confession while they still had the chance. She can't stop replaying that years-old hit on the Duke's family in her mind, and that's why Sure, any normal clues are probably dust by now, but if Norman hired an assassin, that trail might still be lurking somewhere on record. Noah's younger cousin, Louis, stares at the ground, boiling with frustration because they can't drag Norman to justice, no matter how guilty he clearly is. Noah and Viola keep moving down the hallway when bam, a voice snaps from behind, asking if the guy they're with is really Noah. The kid bursts up with a huge grin, yelling that he knew it was his brother. Then his face lights up like he's seeing the one person he was sure would show. Noah yanks Louis into a tight hug and blurts, "So, how've you been?" Then Louis just grins and says, "I'm doing great," like nothing could shake him. Noah finally blurts out that she's actually her uncle's kid, but Louis shoots his gaze to her and demands, "Wait, who are you?" That's when Viola flashes a huge grin, says, "I'm Vivi," and explains she's just going to stay with the Duke's family for a while because of what's going on back home. She opens her mouth to say it's a pleasure to meet him. But before the words even land, a hand shoots out, and the whole vibe flips instantly. Viola snaps to attention and bolts out of danger, slipping away before the rest of them even realize what's happening. She's left totally stunned by what she's feeling, so overwhelmed she can barely get a word out, because whatever just happened hits like a total game changer. Louis feels it too. He swears this place is buzzing with magic unlike hers, then snaps, "Who's there?" demanding answers on the spot. Louis snaps stiff when this huge alien-looking monster materializes right behind him, and he can't stop his mind from screaming, "What the heck is this terrifying thing?" The spirit locks onto the distance with icy, unblinking eyes and demands everyone stay back, while Louis just stands there, pale and trembling like he's seen a ghost. Noah whips his head around, utterly baffled, and blurts, "What's happening?" because he can't see the huge entity right in front of them. But Viola clocks it instantly and her mind races, because why on earth would a spirit dare show up in a place like this? A mage's voice suddenly cuts in, telling everyone the creature isn't just some monster, it's a spirit, forged from pure magic, and then it turns out these things are straight-up magic manifestations. Nimusu's mages need them so bad they make them unbelievably special. Viola whips around and demands, "Can you actually see it?" But Noah only lets out this strange noise as he backs away, like he's already lost the plot. She realizes almost nobody beyond Nimusu can even see spirits, and finding someone nearby who can hits her like a gut punch. She whips her head toward Louis, and there it is. He's staring at the same thing, visibly trembling like he can't breathe, locked onto that monster. Then, the spirit's magic suddenly surges, wham, smashing into Viola so hard she can barely stay upright, while the wind howls up around her. The spirit locks eyes with Viola and calls her out on the spot no local. It sniffs the air for magic and swears it's there, but it can't find a single shred of mana anywhere. And it gets even crazier when the spirit clocks that she's using the very same techniques as another woman she knows. Viola is totally thrown off by it, staring at the other woman like, "Who are you? And how do you have the same skills?" But Noah steps in with a hardened stare and tells the spirit, "Viola's with me, and you can trust her." Viola tilts her chin up, murmurs his title like a prayer, and you can see it. She's genuinely moved that he's willing to stand up for her. Louis watches them and starts thinking, maybe it's these two, maybe they can actually help. But he still hesitates, and then he stops mid-thought as the moment cuts off. He finally digs up his courage, rushes to his brother, and begs him to help, because whatever's happening, they've got to save their house. The story snaps into a hushed room inside the mansion, where a chandelier swings above the heavy furniture, and the silence says everything is about to go wrong. Louis steers them to a particular spot and points it out, and Viola clocks it instantly. Everyone there is wound tight, like any second something's about to snap. She knows that a simple locked door won't stop eavesdroppers, so she thrusts out her hand and tells them she's cast a sealing spell on everyone to keep every secret airtight. Noah locks eyes with Louis and asks, "Mind telling us the full story of what's really happening?" And Louis cracks it wide open. Every single person in that house is getting played by his dad's second wife, Cecilia, and she's hiding something big. Noah's eyes light up with that earlier flashback, so he presses for details and makes sure she's the very woman who stood right beside his uncle. Louis nods, then drops the bomb right after his mother died from illness. His father suddenly walked in with a random woman and brought her straight home. He picks up right there and tells you That's when the whole mansion flipped. Everyone started acting weird as hell. Now everyone bends the knee to Cecilia, and his own father has even shut himself in the annex to carry out some seriously suspicious rituals. Viola hears the tale of the house going weird, and she blurts out, "Could this be magic doing all of this?" Louis looks totally shaken and blurts out that ever since he was a little kid, he's been able to see things nobody else can, and that's exactly why he's so sure. He drops a total bombshell saying that woman isn't human at all because a wild, insanely powerful force is practically blasting out of her. Noah feels it in his bones. He knew something was wrong, but the moment the truth hits, he realizes this situation is way bigger than he ever imagined. Cecilia peeks from the shadows, eyes locked on him as she racks her brain. There's no way she hasn't seen him before. Just wait. While Louis explains this, when everything spiraled out of control and loneliness hit hard, a fire spirit suddenly burst in and saved him. But even with the spirit backing him up, the kid still looks rattled. He straight up admits nothing, not even this, can measure up to that woman. He's fallen into pure panic, literally begging Noah and Vivi to step up and save everyone before it gets any worse, before it blows up again, Back in the main house, Cecilia's eavesdropping like a hawk, snapping at Louis calling him a useless brat just for even saying her name. Lord Norman stands right beside her, fuming and insisting they can't just let Noah run wild. And honestly, he's so frustrated he's replaying the moment and wishing he'd killed that guy when he had the chance. Norman locks eyes with Cecilia and tells her it's not over, yet there's still time to finish the job. She flashes this unsettling smile, tells him to calm down and hand everything over to her because, yep, it's all playing out exactly like they planned. She glares out the window, magic fire crackling in her hand, stunned to death that a human really had that ring. And now she won't stop until she gets it, no matter what scheme she's cooking up. And all she can think about right now is getting it back by any means. So it finally belongs to her. Cecilia hovers over the room, her magic blazing, as she tells Louis she knows he's cooking something with Vivi. And she cackles, saying Vivi's spell on the door is totally worthless, because she can see everything happening across this mansion. Stalking through the dark, she taunts Louis as a bad boy for sneaking around behind his parents' backs, and then she vows he'll vanish next, too. She snaps and unleashes her shadow beasts, gushing that they're her lovely pets, then fires them out to tear the job apart, and back in the room, nobody even clocks how deathly pale Vivi looks. So nobody asks what's wrong, because she's locked in on the door creaked open, and in that instant, he knew something deadly was waiting right on the other side. She screams for the Duke to dodge, and Noah shoots out a warning to everyone back, now as Louis scrambles to escape. The lock gets obliterated, cracked open, and shattered into a million pieces by one brutal, massive, Nas-Asta. Vivi clenches her magic, lets out a startled gasp, and realizes the intruder pounding her home is no human at all. It's a monster crashing in. Beasts burst into the room and Vivi scrambles to block them with everything she's got. The door finally splinters open, and Noah's stomach drops. These aren't just attackers anymore. I'll then. Vivi refuses to back down. She tells him she's fine with this fight, says she'll plow straight through whatever hits next. But the second she spots who's really behind the attack, she freezes in shock, utterly lost, because none of it makes sense with how wild these people are behaving. She catches this strange magical aura swirling around them, and it hits her hard. They're being controlled, and it's total chaos, because she can't even move or fight back right while... No, she can't. Noah screams her name as the shadow beast rockets into the room, slashing their escape right out of reach. Vivi stares down the pack of monsters, ready to unleash everything at once, until she realizes the cruel truth. Her magic catalysts are totally gone. Then it hits. Her gut was right about the mansion, because someone stormed through and stripped out every single thing she could have used for a spell, and she's fuming because they left. No doubt those checks were so ruthless, they made her feel completely defenseless. But just when she thinks she's alone, a spirit pops up right behind her, offers to help her for the kid's sake. So Vivi freezes, completely stunned. The moment she feels the spirit at her side, confidence crashes back in suddenly. She knows she can flip the whole situation around. Vivi doesn't hesitate for a second. She screams for a wind spear and blasts a gaping hole straight through the monster, and she freezes for a heartbeat, wide-eyed, because it hits her. exactly where they've ended up. Aina grabs onto Lewis like her life depends on it, then freezes, totally blindsided, and demands the kid what he's doing here. But Noah chops her off on the spot, saying they'll hash out the details later. Right now, they've got to get to somewhere safe, like, immediately. They scramble to bolt, but every window and door in the whole damn place is jammed shut. And Vivi squints at the inner door, pointing out it's nowhere near as brutal as the main entrance they just blasted through. Louis shoots her a nervous look and asks what she's planning, and Vivi just smirks like she's got it all under control. Though she unleashes a brutal blast of magic, and the door gets ripped to shreds in a massive explosion. Vivi beams and cheers while she gets it open. And right behind her, Noah just slumps there, dead tired from watching her chaos. Noah spots the remaining staff packed in a tight huddle, and he demands, "Are we all here?" The maids straighten up and confirm, "Yep, everyone's accounted for." Vivi whips around to the group and declares she's just sealed the room with a magic barrier, promising them they're safe here, for now. Noah stands up like a signal flare and declares it's go time. He's taking them out to hunt down the source of all this trouble. Louis snaps says he's not backing down and bursts out that he's going with them, eyes blazing like he's ready to throw hands. Noah crouches to the kid's level and tells him, "I won't let you get hurt," then orders him to step back and trust them to handle it. Vivi stares them down, and you can see it click this. Whole situation is turning deadly, and she's piecing the truth together. Fast. And it gets even crazier. She figures her uncle and Cecilia must be behind this whole mess because she never once saw a single sign of magic controlling that guy. It finally clicks for her. Those two are definitely teaming up on purpose. Vivi clamps down on her suspicions for now, flashes a bright smile and tells everyone, "Don't worry," like she's got everything under control. Louis whips around to a spirit and blurts out if he's allowed to tag along with the Spirit Brothers, and the spirit nods. Then they all kick into gear. The staff warns them to stay sharp out there, and they swear they'll be careful as they finally step out. Louis pauses in the hallway for a beat, eyes locked on the big doors, just waiting there before he and Vivi start chasing the glowing spirit through the corridor. They push deeper into the house. And Vivi can't stop thinking about that spirit from Nimisho. It barely ever bothered anyone, unless someone was actively casting magic at that exact moment. She tilts her head up at the guide and says it's insanely rare for a spirit to back a human like this. But then the spirit blinks and points out something wild. The magic density around here is way higher than you'd think, and it keeps going to explain that. This place used to be packed with spirits spending every day, guarding the land beside their friends, jumping in to help the moment trouble showed up. But as the days dragged on, their ranks kept getting wiped out, until, at last, only this last spirit remained in the whole forest. Vivi snaps that the reports about spirits vanishing have started piling up, and Nemus turns out she's the reason this case ever started, back when she was vice captain, and now she realizes why she got kicked her out of the country before she could ever uncover the real reason behind it. The spirit just turns its gaze elsewhere, stuck on the same painful thought how it spent forever in that place, living all by itself. The spirit drifts back to the moment it first collided with that crying kid, just him, standing there by himself, sobbing like his world had shattered. It hit the spirit like a lightning strike, because no human at all, had ever managed to see it until that moment. The spirit spotted the mansion and the people inside, and instantly sensed dark demonic forces closing in to threaten everyone there. Even if the spirit desperately wanted to jump in and help, it realized it couldn't actually undo the mess by itself. So Vivi and Louis step up to these children of men, begging them to help with the child, because it can't handle this alone. Vivi flashes a huge grin and, without the slightest hesitation, tells the spirit, "Of course I'll help." They burst down the hallway, and Vivi shouts that a spell is choking the entire mansion so to shatter it. They've got to hunt down the very source. Louis stretches toward the window and blurts, "So the source is hiding in one of these rooms?" Vivi shuts him down. "This magic isn't a rescue at all. It's a trap built to cage everyone inside, and whoever created it wouldn't dare trap themselves too." A serious look snaps onto her face as she realizes there's no way it's random. There has to be a secret path running from the mansion straight to that nearby building. Even though Vivi's hunting for another house nearby, the whole estate just gives her nothing, no buildings, no options, only a dead empty view. Suddenly, Vivi gets yanked out of nowhere and she blurts that whoever's holding her needs to let go, totally frozen with shock. She glances back at Noah and snaps that he's been way too careless. Then Noah just stands there, stunned, and blurts out her name. Vivi can't believe a guy like him actually got caught by some simple blinding spell then. As she talks, the air shifts and everything goes. The swirling magic tears open the emptiness, and right before their eyes, a massive, hidden building bursts into view. Vivi blurts it out. Those inside can totally see them, even though they couldn't even spot the building until right now. She leans in and tells Noah everything. This whole thing is just a spellbinding illusion built to cover the real truth. Noah's jaw drops as the whole building pops into existence out of thin air. But Vivi doesn't even blink. She's already locked in and insists the magic has to be hiding right inside. With pure, unstoppable grit in her eyes, Vivi locks onto the house and declares she's coming for the one behind all of this, right now. From her window inside, Cecilia watches them close in, and then she just smirks like, wow, they cracked it way sooner than I expected. Inside that hidden building, Cecilia snaps to the truth her illusion lasted only moments, and the disguise they tried to sell was instantly exposed. So she just shrugs it off with a grin, saying she's not into fighting yet. If they come for her, she's ready to handle it. Downstairs, Vivian and Noah finally burst into the mansion, feet pounding as they push through the main entrance and spot the whole place is dead silent and totally empty. Noah points it out like, this is way too quiet, and Vivi just nods along because she senses something's wrong. She warns Noah to keep his guard up. Whatever's crawling around his uncle's house is definitely not human. Right then, Lord Norman crashes into the scene out of nowhere, locks eyes with them, and snaps that their little visit is about to turn into a nightmare because dark energy starts slithering across the floor toward the two of them. Yeah, they're definitely not alone anymore. Lord Norman plays the perfect host, acting like, no guests don't belong in a place like this. Vivi freezes for a split second. Then she leans in and spots one tiny detail, one that flips everything on its head. She clocks it instantly. Cecilia is just like those creepy hall servants, and she's getting played, used, and manipulated for someone else's agenda. Vivi lets out a pained grunt as dark energy slams her to the ground, pinning her in place. She's totally stunned by just how brutally powerful it is. Cecilia just breaks into laughter and tells him to quit struggling, because if he keeps fighting, he might really end up losing some limbs. She scoots in real close just to tease, because seriously, how did the legendary vice commander of the Magic Knights end up as this adorable little kid? And Vivi's whole body locks up when Cecilia meets her eyes and drops her real name, Viola. Vivi's stomach drops as she snaps, demanding answers. How does this woman know who she is, and what is she really? But the second she stares harder, she realizes it with full clarity. What's in front of her isn't human in the slightest. Cecilia stares straight back for a split second, looking like the comment totally throws her off. Then she snaps, throws Vivi a sharp look, and demands she stop lumping her in with something like that because apparently there's a cap on how insulting she'll tolerate. She shuts Vivi down cold, snaps that Vivi isn't the one she came for, and drops that she's got far bigger plans. Then the moment hangs there, waiting for what happens next. Then she snaps her attention to Noah and points out the ring he's holding like it was her target from the very start. Cecilia leans in with a creepy grin, locks eyes with Noah, and demands he hand it over right now like she's already decided what happens next. With the ring he's been hiding all along still fresh in her mind, Vivi freezes because that demand hits her like a sucker punch. Noah glances aside for a split second, totally baffled by how she even found out, because that ring is worth far more than he could ever afford to lose. He locks eyes with her, pins her in place with pure intensity, and bluntly tells her he's not handing it over to anyone. The ring suddenly erupts in blinding light as its power finally awakens. Noah snaps into a battle stance, and dark energy whirls around him like a storm. Noah demands that Vivi verify if the woman over there is truly not human, and Vivi immediately yells back that she's definitely not. Noah hears it and rockets forward with his sword already in hand, roaring at Cecilia that if she's a monster, then mercy is off the table. He swings with everything he's got, and finally his blade connects, slashing straight through Cecilia's dark energy as she snarls, grunt and all. Cecilia just stands there with her wound clenched in her hands, and then she bursts into laughter like the pain is the funniest thing in the world. Cecilia flashes a creepy smile, eyes locked on you, and says that was terrifying then somehow. She's clearly not bothered, even though she snickers at the whole notion of a duke just whipping out and slashing random people out of nowhere. Watching from the side, Vivi's eyes widen. She realizes this fight is going to be brutal, and Cecilia is already running her over. She bursts forward on this weird, wild energy, so Vivi can't stop asking herself if she's secretly the same kind of magic beast. Cecilia snaps, getting offended, and demands they stop lumping her together with creatures like that. Before anyone even blinks, Cecilia rockets a fist of dark energy out and yanks Noah up by the face, tearing him off the ground. He can barely squeak out a word as she says she'll let him go. Just give her the ring, but the moment hangs in the air, and she flips her mind. She decides there's no point dragging it out. She'll kill him now, clamping her grip tighter as Vivi freezes in pure disbelief, then blurts out for the Duke like it's her only lifeline. Noah manages to shout over the chaos at Vivi, grab that thing and use it right now. Louis is totally shell-shocked. He's frozen in place until someone shouts his name, and Vivi crashes in right when the tension spikes. She says she told him to wait, but she couldn't stand staying behind, and there she is, smiling as she tells Noah he crushed it. Then she flips open a magic tool like it's ready to unleash hell. A brutal surge of magic slams Cecilia full force, blasting her clean off her feet and sending her skidding through the air. The blast shoves her hand away from Noah. She's forced to let go, so Noah crumples to his knees, wheezing for air as Vivi barrels over to him, shouting, "Are you okay?" Cecilia isn't backing off. She just locks eyes with Vivi and glares like it finally clicks who she's up against. On the side, that spirit figure is fuming that Vivi didn't wait, while Louis just stares down, quietly apologizing that he couldn't stop her from diving in. Louis snaps his focus back to his father, eyes shattered with grief, and he barely breathes out the word "father," and panic crashes over him as he begs, screaming, "Why won't you recognize me?" Pleading right there for his dad not to turn and walk away. Vivi watches the whole thing unfold and suddenly clocks the truth. This man isn't acting on his own. He's being controlled, and Cecilia is the one calling the shots. Cecilia lets out a disgusted sigh and rants that nothing ever goes right, things just keep crashing down on her. Then the shadows lunge and yank Louis away in a blink, while Norman screams the kid's name, pure panic ripping out of his voice. Louis is absolutely shaking with terror. He can't even make sense of it as the darkness closes in around him. Norman completely snaps. He's screaming at Cecilia, demanding she explain why she's breaking her promise to leave his son untouched. She doesn't even flinch, just stares him down with ice-cold eyes and snaps that he's being nothing but a real pain. The shadows strike Norman hard. He chokes out a desperate groan as they slam into him. Norman slams onto the floor, and Louis shrieks his father's name while he's trapped there, hanging in the air with no way to fight back. Vivi's done playing. She surges with magic, powers up, and shouts at Cecilia to let that kid go right now. Cecilia flashes that mocking little smile and needles Vivi like, "Are you sure you really want to kick this off?" She starts talking about how a kid with the right magic talent could be the key to her plans, and you can tell she's not letting him go. Cecilia keeps rambling about her dark magic, name-dropping the exact spell she used to turn people into magical beasts, and while Vivi shouts that she's never heard of anything like that in her whole life, Cecilia casually shrugs and hits her with the truth. Humans don't even know it exists. Vivi's shaking hard when Cecilia drops the truth. This is a rare power only her kind can wield, and it's obvious that the magic humans copy is just a pale imitation of the real power they're using. Cecilia flashes a chilling grin and finally spills the truth: only demons can wield power like that. Vivi can't even process it. She just whispers "demons" under her breath, frozen in pure shock. Cecilia stares at the wreckage and grimly admits they really trashed her poor creatures. But she was already planning to restock her supply soon anyway. She tells him she tried that trick on the local spirits ages ago, and back then, it all crashed in failure. At last, the fire spirit snaps awake to the truth, then blasts out Cecilia's name, furious that she's the one who hurt every single one of its friends. Cecilia shrugs it off like it's nothing, but you can still hear that sharp, shocked disbelief in her voice, like she can't believe one of her old specimens actually slipped out of her grasp. Cecilia flashes the spine-chilling grin, looking genuinely shocked that anyone even survived her past experiments. And then, the fire spirit snaps completely, screaming at her as it hurls a massive wall of flames across the whole room. So Cecilia gets swarmed by the heat, then the spirit snaps that she's next on the list, and Cecilia just stares back, annoyed as hell because she lets out a heavy sigh and admits things aren't going to plan. And then she pauses, because some weird feeling is screaming at her that something's about to go wrong. Vivi might be the one about to pull off something absolutely unhinged, staring him down with that intense look like Louis stands back in total panic, praying that whatever comes next will finally turn out okay. But right then, everything crashes. Vivi's lungs rip as she screams Louis' name, because Louis knows he's not going to make it out in time. Leaving Vivi, no! Vivi lunged forward, screaming that she wouldn't lose anyone else today, right as a brutal wave of dark energy detonates inches from her face, blasting across the entire space and swallowing everything with a towering wall of black magic slammed down between her and Louis, sealing them off from each other like the world had just snapped shut. Vivian and Louis just stand there, totally frozen in place, as the fire spirit finally flips into a full-blown magical beast and the reality hits. And Cecilia soaks it all in, grinning that it's all amazing as the creature's gigantic eye locks onto them like it's judging every move. She's staring like she's just seen the impossible. Sure, it wasn't exactly the plan, but she doesn't care because it finally worked. And then she spirals into overthinking, counting every past failure, and insists they have to find a way to make this finally consistent. She stares into the dark mass, sees the shape still jittering, and thinks, it'll calm down and lock in soon. So she leans in close, corners the monster, and asks what it's like to wake up in a brand new body, then tells it that getting to live like that has to be the absolute best. Louis just stands there trembling, unable to breathe as he stares, shouting, "No way," over and over, swearing this can't be real while Cecilia flashes that cold, cruel smile and basically tells them, "Congrats, this is my success story now," while making it painfully clear that everyone else is useless to her. She snaps to it time to crush the nuisances blocking her. And then the monster surges in. Louis fights for breath as he lunges forward, screaming that it's him and pleading with the spirit to snap back and remember who he is. Vivi snaps her voice into the air, yelling at the creature nonstop, trying to grab its attention as Louis stood there stone still as the monster charged at him, and Vivi blurted, "Move," just in time to warn him. Screamed his name in pure panic because it was flying way too fast for him, so he lunges in and yanks him back at the last second right as the monster's giant arm crashes into the ground, missing them by a hair. Vivi stares at the massive crater and realizes if that hit had landed, she'd be dead. Louis refuses to quit. He steps up, blasts his voice at the beast, and demands to know if it truly can't recognize him anymore. Vivi lunges for him, shouting for him to stop because closing in that close is pure suicide, and while Cecilia just sits there with that smug little grin, she turns to Louis and snaps that calling out to it is completely pointless. She leans in and tells him the truth, its spirit is gone, and now it's nothing but a killing machine, hunting and shredding every human it lays eyes on. The monster shrieks like a nightmare and charges once more, and Louis is left shaking with pure fear, while Vivi fights to shield him from the horror. The monster slams the ground, then everyone's eyes go wide as they realize a spirit didn't just appear, it got reborn as a magical beast. It's wild, watching it attack Louis after all the care it used to show him, and Vivi knows the truth. Their voices aren't reaching it at all. She stares at the creature, caught between mercy and panic. Do they really have to end it? But then Vivi snaps into motion and bolts straight at the beast, and Noah throws his hands up, yelling for her because he has no idea what she's doing, since most magical beasts don't even have a real body, just a hulking wall of raw energy, like power wearing a mask. But Vivi stares at her own hand and blurts that normally you'd never be able to touch something like this at all. Noah's jaw drops. Wait, it's really got a physical form? And Vivi leans in to explain that ever since the spirit got forced to shift, that magical energy inside just won't calm down the way it's supposed to. She starts breaking it down, and the second Louis catches on, his eyes blaze like he just realized what that really means, because he suddenly understands that so he hasn't fully transformed into a monster, yet, meaning there's still a real shot to save him. Vivi locks eyes with the creature and realizes if they move right now, they might still make it in time to save it. But Louis can't stomach what he's hearing, so he snaps. No way. Louis yanks her close and demands if she can really undo him, but Vivi snaps back that it's not that easy. She's about to explain everything. They break it down. Both sorcery and magic have their own creepy, forbidden arts. And everyone knows those spells are off limits for a reason, and they're banned for one brutal reason. That kind of power spits in the face of how nature is meant to run. Vivi snaps that these spells are basically sealed off saved for the most insane emergencies, and this right here is one of them. Because one nasty dark spell can swap one living being into another, so maybe they can switch him too. Louis is stunned and blurts out, "You're serious?" But V moves before he fully turns into a beast. But Vivi locks eyes with him and boldly declares she's a proud mage of Nimusu, so he'd better not underestimate her. Even with panic clawing at her, she knows this is an emergency and there's no other way. Louis clings to Vivi and blurts out, "I swear, I want to save the spirits. I just don't have the strength to do it alone, so he looks her dead in the eye and tells her straight she's the only one he can count on right now. He vows he'll do anything in his power to help her, and that's why he's begging her for help right now. Vivi just freezes for a heartbeat, quietly blurting his name while she races through her next move. She starts to pivot away and drops the bombshell that saving people was never what pulled her into magic research in the first place. Then she whips around, flashes this massive grin, and fires off the question, what kind of mage would she be if she didn't help someone in trouble? She's buzzing with rage as she tells him, "I'll show you exactly how a pro handles this." Then she smirks and adds that he's about to witness the real power of an archmage. Louis stares at her in total shock, his eyes blazing as the truth hits. She's really about to do it. A little spark lights up Vivi's eyes, and it hits him. Since she's been exiled, she's done following those old rules. She bursts into laughter, practically daring fate now that she can get away with anything. She's not letting this rare shot at forbidden magic slip, even as Louis frets about how it might all blow up. Cecilia glides in with that unsettling smile, quizzing the two of them like, "Did you honestly think I'd just forget you?" And right then, she speeds the moment up and tells them flat out, "I don't know what you're trying to pull, but trust me, whatever this plan is, it's not going to work." She sinks even deeper into the shadows and spits out the truth. Since they've already seen too much, there's no chance she'll let them leave alive. Vivi's freaking out because Cecilia keeps blasting high-level spells non-stop, no mana drops, not a single hiccup like she's straight up cheating. The pressure's crushing her. Vivi desperately wants to jump in and fix this, but the cruel truth is she burned through every single catalyst Louis handed her, so she's left staring at nothing, right when she needs it most leaving her. She's got her pinned in a terrible spot, because she knows even the most forbidden magic still needs a catalyst to work, and without it, she's stuck, so she blurts, "Louis, do you have anything left?" And Louis snaps that he handed her his very last one earlier. Louis tells him those crystals were forged from the spirits' own bodies, because they just knew mages would need every ounce of extra power they could get, but now the spirits are all messed up, so they've got 0 crystals left to bail them out right now. Vivi clocks that he's right, and the shock on her face screams it loud because they've officially got 0 options left. Vivi goes utterly still when it finally hits her. What Louis just said. Those crystals weren't crystals at all. They were pieces of the spirits, and she realizes, wait, if that's true, there's a way faster play. She snaps to the guys, announces she's got a plan, and stands tall in front of that monstrous shadow beast. Vivi suddenly launches herself straight at the dark monster, diving headfirst into the swirling black energy. As she vanishes into the shadows, she snaps at the spirit. "Hold still for a second, I've got to move." Noah's stuck in the back, completely baffled, staring at her like, "What are you even doing?" Cecilia clocks what's happening, completely snaps, and screams that there's no way this can be real. Vivi doesn't even flinch. She snaps and yells that she's taking the spirit's body just the way it is, using it for herself. And she breaks it down because the magic formula is basically just the caster's info she can plug straight into the spirit as her direct source, she unleashes her brand new catalyst, and the room instantly gets ripped apart by a monstrous explosion of power. Cecilia is straight up freaking out, blurting to Vivi like, "Am I losing it? Are we seriously using a living spirit as a catalyst like that?" Noah clenches his sword hard, locks eyes with the enemy, and refuses to back up. He roars that nobody's going to interfere with what he's protecting, with the plan. Suddenly, someone calls out, but the Duke snaps at them to back off, then takes over and goes in alone just as the moment demands. He straight up steps into the monster space and challenges it to fight him, instead making Vivi stare, totally shocked, as everything hangs in the balance. Totally freaked out as she watches. And in the dark shadows, Louis fights to keep going until a voice snaps at him to stop moving, and Vu lets out a blood-curdling scream at the kid, shouting that he has to get out right now because this place is far too dangerous. Louis grins at her and says he's totally fine. Dead sure Vivi is going to be the one to bring him back. He isn't scared. He keeps telling himself it's fine because he remembers the very first moment everything started going wrong. He was just a little kid, bawling alone in the woods, spiraling over the fact that his father and every servant had totally snapped. A tiny spirit popped up out of nowhere, just as clueless as him, and asked if it was really going to be alone forever, but the spirit stayed right by his side, whispering that everything would be okay, so they've been inseparable ever since. Louis couldn't believe what he was seeing. The spirit was right there, fully restored and shining brighter than ever. Vibius erupted in cheers, shouting that it all went down flawlessly. She watches Louis stretch out his hand to touch his friend, and the moment it works, relief crashes through her like, "We pulled it off!" The spirit's not impressed at all. It snaps at Louis, calling using it as a catalyst, straight up disrespect, and warns that if he slips, he could vanish for good, leaving. Louis looks totally shaken, but Vivi just bursts into laughter and shrugs it off like, of course a little danger comes with forbidden magic. She says she still needs a little more help, and the spirit grumbles that every mage from Nemus is the absolute worst. Over there, the assassin woman is totally spiraling. She's standing in place, trembling, staring at her busted plan like, how did it fall apart this badly? She lets out a blood-curdling scream because it hits her. She's trapped, nowhere left to run, and that's when Vivi storms in with a terrifying look. She snaps at the woman that she's about to spill every single secret she's been hiding. Vivi leans in with that creepy smile and asks, dead serious, how we should kick off the interrogation, then drops the bomb that she's been itching to test, a whole stack of brand new spells. The spirit keeps its eyes on Vivi as her ruthless interrogation rips the mask off her, because that forbidden magic burns through every last bit of restraint, even as Louis stands there, freaked out like he can't breathe, while it's Lord Norman lies on the floor groaning, and Louis bolts over to check on his father only for the old man to shoot a quick wink, like he's got another trick ready to unleash. The assassin woman takes one look and instantly realizes she's trapped, admits to herself the odds are finally against her. Then she heads for what comes next. Vivi suddenly screams for a retreat, shocked, as the woman starts to disappear right before their eyes. Then Noah just stands there, stunned, watching the escape vanish. Vivi won't let that go. She blasts the woman with a furious shout to stop right there and not move an inch. But the dark smoke keeps crawling outward, and a warning voice screams in their ears, never ever forget what happened here today. She glares at them one final time, jabs a finger in their direction, and swears she'll never forgive humans for ripping magic from her people. Not done with them yet, he tells Vivi, right to her face, that she's absolutely coming back to hunt him down and find him again. With her demon pride on the line, she vows to wipe out every last human guaranteed, and that is. It's the last thing she screams before the shadows drag her under, swearing that when she comes back, not one soul will be spared. Vivi and Noah stood in the middle of the hallway, and the demon's dark shadows still clawed at the air for a beat before. Vivi gapes at the spot where he was, watching him vanish for good, and she whispers, he's gone. But before she can, Noah refuses to quit. He shoots her a question. Can she track him down again like she did last time? Vivi drops to the floor, eyes searching for a trail, and she confesses she's scared she can't do it this time, saying the moves Guy mastered are nothing like the stuff they're used to. She can barely move. She's stuck spiraling over one terrifying thought. That demon knew exactly who she was, and she's still scrambling to figure out what's actually happening. Louis screams for his father, and Vivi snaps at everyone to stop panicking over the escape and zero in on the crisis staring them in the face. Then it hit them like a lightning bolt. Maybe this house wasn't hiding secrets. it was hiding something else. Lord Norman finally breaks the silence, and when everyone's just staring at him, he admits the terrifying truth. He's been played like a puppet from the start. He locks eyes with Noah and says, "Yeah, the same thing happened to your parents." Then he suddenly cuts himself off, mid-sentence like, "and then he cly." And he swears it was all that man's fault, since he couldn't stop that woman's rampage, leaving Vivi totally stunned by the bombshell. Louis snaps his father off at once, screaming that none of it is true. Abandoning everyone else, he walks off while Lord Norman just freezes, completely blindsided as Louis's name hits the air. The kid locks eyes with him and fires off the question. Does he really think Dad can hide everything forever? Louis bends over the desk and tells him, face to face, that he knows his father did it all on purpose. He dives into the desk drawer and snatches the one thing he's been guarding like it's priceless. He yanks out a document, holds it up to the light, and declares that the date on it is proof it was taken on that exact day. Vivi stares at the chaos of scribbled handwriting on the page and suddenly realizes exactly what she's looking at. As Noah double-checks the names, Louis swears he knows for sure because he watched them write the whole thing down himself. Noah taps the spot on the map, and Vivi immediately shoots back. "Wait, are you telling me this is a murder contract?" Right on cue, the little fire spirit bursts in. She's been watching the whole thing unfold. It's a flashback to the old days. Norman reels back to the time he'd never once felt a drop of dark, twisted magic in the air. But that's the one thing nobody can take away. This crew locks in, standing their ground and telling Norman straight up, every choice was his, and every bit of this was something he chose, completely of his own free will. Norman just stands there, jaw clenched, cornered and furious as he starts digging into the past. He brings up Noah's father and raves about what a brutally talented, wildly successful older brother he was, at least compared to him. Yeah, he looks downright bitter as he rants that his brother was the one who walked off with everything their father left behind. And it all boils down to talent. He insists that since his brother was born with way more natural skill, he got a massive domain to rule, leaving Norman's got nothing but a measly little patch of land out on the frontier, so far from everything, and when he glances back at those days, he can't help, and flat out asks them if they don't think the whole situation is straight up unfair. He flashes this chilling stare and blurts, "So why shouldn't the strong be the ones in charge of this land?" Noah glares at him with pure disgust, frozen in disbelief that his own uncle unleashed all this pain and chaos over something so pathetic. Norman doesn't slow down. He blurts out how he's been scrambling for a way to wipe out his own brother until a mysterious woman finally steps up to him. He finally confesses he only agreed to help her carry out a full wipeout of the duchy, because deep down, he craved noble status and couldn't stop dreaming about what it would let him do. Looking back, he admits he had zero clue what to think when she simply popped out of nowhere, and the shock only got worse because it turns out she wasn't even human. Because it lined up perfectly with everything he wanted, he grabbed the deal without hesitation, and honestly, at first he expected nothing from her. But yeah, he's got to admit, the results have been anything but bad. The only real issue, he admits, is the crazy truth: Noah actually lived. And Noah just glares at him like he's completely exhausted. With that smug grin plastered on his face, Norman bluntly confesses that he's the mastermind behind every order, and that's the truth behind it all. And Vivi calls him out. "Wow, you're actually being honest now." But Norman just shrugs like, "Yeah, why hide it anymore? We're already this deep in it." Noah tries to move, but a brutal blast of power slams into him. He snaps out a curse and fights with everything he's got to break free. And Norman just stands there, talking to the air like, "Thank goodness I picked up some basic magic from that woman, because, trust me, it's helping him right this second." Norman just stands there, arms flung wide like he's already won, and tells them the official evidence has been erased, so there's nothing left. Noah stood there dripping sweat, grinding his teeth, trying with everything in him not to explode as he snapped at Norman. "How could you pull something like this?" With a smug grin, Norman leans in and needles them. "So you're really trying to threaten me? Or do you honestly think you can take me on?" And with total confidence, he shuts his eyes tight and declares he'll never testify against himself, period, unless they've got real proof. Then his face snaps into shock, because his own voice suddenly blares out, and before he can stop it, he admits he was the one who gave the order. Norman's eyes go wide, panic hits fast as he whips around, gasping at what's happening, horrified when he finally realizes the voice everyone just heard was unmistakably his. A voice crackles from a nearby floating crystal, almost casually saying that Norman's never-ending chatter is exactly why this whole job was a piece of cake. Viola rolls in with a smug smile, thrusts the crystal into view, and beams that she's captured the entire ordeal on a perfect recording right down to everything that happened, which makes the little spirit she saved finally chime in, because it's like, oh, now I get it. She really needed help, even while it sneers that every mage around here is trash. Viola thanks the little guy for that huge help, but the spirit fires back, telling her it doesn't count unless she admits the truth, that she's the one who saved its life first. Norman snaps into panic, screaming that the recording is completely invalid. But then, no. Noah just plants his feet and shuts the whole thing down, telling that guy to stop right now. He steps straight into Norman's space, growling that this time, no escape is happening, and that Norman better be ready to pay for everything he's done. Norman totally snaps, slams down onto the floor, and starts stammering like a fool. Because Viola whips around to Noah and snaps, "The nerve to call me scary when you're doing the exact same thing." The group spots Louis standing right there, and he looks absolutely wrecked by everything that just exploded. Staring out the window, Louis suddenly recalls the vow he made after they saved the spirit. He promised he'd do anything to help, and that realization hits him hard. Now it's his duty no more maybe, no more later, he has to do it. He finally admits to himself deep down he really wanted to believe that woman was the only one behind all this chaos. But the spirit chimes in, staring back at what this place used to be, a lush haven where spirits thrived everywhere, long before it got turned into some rough frontier territory. The spirit keeps talking, saying folks who can't see spirits will never understand it, like this land is seriously awesome, even if they can't see why. Suddenly, a pack of maids barreled out into the hallway, slamming down in chaos and yelling for Master Louis as they finally spotted him. Louis freezes in place, eyes wide with shock, because there they all are gathered right in front of him like something unreal just happened. One of the servants blurts that they were absolutely stunned when they watched him rip out of his room, out of nowhere. They swarm around him, panicked and pleading, begging him never to be that reckless again, because they're terrified out of their minds. So amazing. A maid slips in close, clocks the look on his face, and blurts, "What's wrong?" while everyone else just stares, waiting for him to crack. Louis fires the question, "Do you all really know who I am?" And the staff member answers, "Of course we do." Tears surge into Louis's eyes as he stares at them. Then it hits him. Everyone's finally back to their normal selves. Viola flashes him a grin and a quick wink, then tells him the spell on everyone's finally broken, so he's safe at last. Louis wipes his face, tears crashing down as he sobs out his thanks to Vivienne for everything she's done to save them. The maids are completely freaking out, demanding to know what on earth just happened, but Louis only laughs and shrugs it off like it was nothing. Viola flashes a smile at Noah, insisting the kid looks like he'll be totally fine from here. Noah only nods quietly. And he straight up admits it these days. It feels like Vivi keeps bailing him out of every single mess. Viola beams at him and blurts that she seriously just thrilled her magic finally came in handy for him, like, for once. She's practically on fire, yelling that using your power for others is the real job of a mage. And yeah, Noah just stands there, stares her down, and with a proud little pose basically says, "Look, you're getting so dependable now." Noah raises a dark crystal and tells her, "If I pull the magic from Nemus and show it as proof, we'll finally expose my uncle and prove he's guilty of it all." Viola looks crushed, begging that she can testify herself, but she's convinced nobody will buy her story once they see her trapped in this tiny little body. Noah stares down at her and snaps, "That's exactly why the next step is getting you back to your normal self." And right then, when Viola finally remembers and asks what happened to the ring that Demon mentioned earlier, Noah yanks his hand into his pocket and tells her, "Do you mean this one?" Viola locks eyes on the item, and a sharp wave of déjà vu crashes over her like she's seen it with her own two eyes before. Noah stares at her and tells her the truth. He didn't just find that ring. A kid who saved his life gave it to him from that same incident, swearing it would keep him safe. He points out the kid's red hair and swears he looks just like her, and Viola's mind instantly clicks. Every little piece finally falls into place. The ring's Nemesis crest didn't just look old, it wore the name Vikland carved into it in their ancient tongue, like a stamped proof of where it truly came from. Viola stared at the ring in her palm and went still, because she finally remembered it was her who gave it to him in the first place, and that means she suddenly snaps to it. Wait, haven't we met before? Flashing back to that day, the young Noah lies crumpled on the ground, barely able to breathe, or even understand what just hit him, so that Viola, young and trembling, spotted him and hurried over, desperate to check if he was still alive. She shot her hand out and demanded to know if he was okay, while Noah just stared up at her, bruised to hell, his face still frozen in pure shock. As the memories roll on, she realizes it's only the folks from the kingdom of Nemesis who can wield magic like that. In a flashback at the academy, the teacher strides up to her podium and tells her students, "If you want to be mages, then master magic not to flex, but to protect people." And she tells them, "Study hard, because when things turn rough, you've got to protect yourselves and your families." The teacher strides in and kicks off the day's lesson, roaring that today it's win magic so she tells everyone, watch closely, then breaks out the demo, and the second the teacher starts, a young Viola locks in on her notes like her life depends on it. As the teacher rattles off formulas and the exact catalysts for the spell, Viola's mind snaps into place. She starts seeing the whole picture at last, because at 10 years old, Viola's already locked in sorcery feels way more thrilling than basic magic. She loves that sorcery isn't something you're handed at birth, it's earned through hard work, so anyone can wield it if they're willing to grind. Staring at the crystals and the notes on her desk, she realizes the whole mix of formulas and catalysts doesn't just work, it feels like true art, but she can. She can't stop thinking it's totally unfair only people from her own country get to use magic. She's dead sure there are tons of people beyond the kingdom of Nemesis who have zero clue how magic works, but would absolutely jump at the chance to try it. Young Viola throws caution to the wind and decides she's done gatekeeping sorcery. She wants to teach it to everyone beyond the kingdom so they can finally get the truth of what magic really is.